Chapter 169. Everything happened too suddenly. The group of people watched as Mo Han was forcefully held in someone's arms. They didn't react in time. Mo Peng, who was the closest, was the first to rush over. He grabbed the man's arm and helped the struggling Mo Han break free. Mo Tao, Mo Han's elder brother and the strongest member of the group, let out a low roar and rushed forward, slamming the man against the wall and grabbing his collar. "You're not going to die," Mo Tao said. "What are you doing?" F***ck me. "What the F***ck are you doing?" The man was pressed against the wall, but his voice was even louder than Mo Tao's. The smell of alcohol coming from his mouth was nauseating. He was clearly very drunk. Luo Nan and the others were at the place where they had just walked past the reception hall and entered the passage. The environment suddenly became narrow. A dozen or so people formed a circle, blocking most of the passage. The drunkard hoodlum shouted a few words, but he seemed to sober up a bit when he saw the dense mass of people before him. He was a bit scared for a time and stopped for 2 seconds. But soon, his drunken eyes caught a glimpse of a certain person in the crowd. He immediately stretched out his hand and swung it twice. Finally, he placed it on Mo Tao's shoulder and pointed at Tian Qi, who was dumbfounded and had his mouth agape. "What's up, little Tian Qi? You can just flip your face when you want it outside?" "Officer Huang." Tian Qi blurted out the first word, but he couldn't hold back the rest of the words. The man's many years of accumulated power made him feel weak in his heart. But the current situation truly exceeded the limits of his face. His fair face soon flushed red. If he could, Tian Qi would certainly want to dig a hole in the ground and bury himself in it. Fortunately, his cousin Tian Xi stepped forward bravely and angrily rebuked, "Huang Bingzhen, what kind of drunken madness is this?" The drunkard hoodlum narrowed his eyes. With great difficulty, he saw Tian Xi's face clearly under the blurred light of the hallway. He laughed again, "Tian Xi. Sister Cici." This guy called Huang Bingzhen was at most in his 20s. His drunken face perfectly accentuated his usual arrogance. "Sister Cici, long time no see. What's up? Is it the student union or the student union? These people around me look unfamiliar. Don't crowd around me, I'm bored." He tried hard to pry Mo Tao's hand away but failed. This made him a little annoyed. "Hey, you already know who I am. Who are you trying to fool?" At that moment, some people in the crowd, "If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page." Luo Nan finally found some relevant memories. "That's right, it's this Huang Bingzhen. According to the intelligence report, he's an officer of the Mystic Arts Research Society. He's a typical rich second generation and a pervert. Last Friday night at the Limestone Water Village pub, Cat Eyes had smashed him into the wall. Perhaps it was because he had taken too many drugs at the time, but that experience clearly did not teach him a sufficient lesson. Tian Xi naturally knew the ins and outs of Huang Bingzhen. She wasn't afraid of his position in the school, but she was afraid of the Huang family's social influence. Her expression was very unsightly. "Huang Bingzhen, who did you come with? If you're drunk, go puke in the toilet. Is it fun to lose face outside? The Mystic Arts Research Society and Acumen College have lost all face because of you." Huang Bingzhen had a cheeky grin on his face. "It's fine. Sister Cici is so pretty. She'll grow back sooner or later." Everyone could see that there was no way to communicate with this fellow at this time. Mo Chiu confirmed that Mo Han wasn't injured, so he didn't want to tangle with her any longer. He took advantage of the situation to close the distance between him and Tian Xi. He lightly embraced her shoulder. "Let's go. We can't lower ourselves to the level of a drunkard. Tao Jiu, let's go." Mo Tao glared fiercely at Huang Bingzhen. He grabbed Huang Bingzhen by the collar and slammed him into the wall before letting go. Who knew that once Huang Bingzhen regained his freedom, he would run his mouth like a train. "Hey, my friend over there. You're familiar with this line of work?" Did you ask me for permission before doing this? Did you ask their president, Chin Chen? This fellow had an intoxicated look on his face, but his heart wasn't. His words were poisonous. Tianxi's face turned green from anger, but the more she was like this, the more excited Huang Bingjin became. So you guys are all hooking up, but I'm not allowed to hug a little girl. Come, little girl. Let me tell you about the Mystic Arts Research Society. He reached out to hug Imo Han as he spoke, but Imo Han, who had come back to her senses, wasn't someone easy to deal with. She immediately kicked out, hitting Huang Bingjin's shin bone. Imo Han was wearing pointy leather shoes. Her kick was filled with hatred. Huang Bingjin immediately let out a miserable groan. He hugged his leg and jumped, but he didn't stand firm. He fell to the ground, battered and exhausted. Let's go. Mo Chio didn't want to make a big deal out of this. He suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and called his companions to leave. The group of people walked inside, leaving Huang Bingjin behind. Huang Bingjin shouted, F***ck me, F***ck me. When they reached the corner of the passage, Mo Peng turned his head and swept a glance at Huang Bingjin, who was still cursing on the ground. He muttered, this guy's mouth is too sharp. I'm afraid I won't be able to have fun tonight. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Luo Nan grunted. He looked at Tianxi and Tianqi's preoccupied appearances. This was indeed the case. When they turned the corner, Luo Nan's line of sight could no longer be seen. However, the range of Luo Nan's mental senses still covered Huang Bingjin. He discovered that someone had gone over to greet Huang Bingjin just as they turned the corner. Clearly, this person had seen the conflict earlier but intentionally avoided trouble. Luo Nan had actually seen this person before. He was Lu Tao from Xie Juanping's circle of friends. At the same time, he was also a high-ranking member of the construction society. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a very scholarly appearance. Huang Bingjin was from the Mystic Arts Research Society. The circle of this group of rich second-generation kids far exceeded the circle of the school's societies. It didn't seem like a cruel bidding war was going on at all. Tonight, Mo Chio had actually spared no expense for this get-together. He specifically booked a large private room to facilitate the preparation work before entering. After the group of people entered the private room, they were guided by the AI to the scanning area to stand. The relevant equipment examined their body shapes, body characteristics, and so on. Data models were built, peripherals were matched, and so on were used to achieve the best effect of reality. Actually, the vast majority of people had accounts at Frost River Reality. A single scan was enough to connect with their previous data. They could stand for a bit and come out. But there were always exceptions to everything. Only Luo Nan could not get through the scan. Mo Peng was impatient. What's going on? Nanster, I brought you to play before. As a veteran gaming geek, Mo Cheng was quite clear about the things here. He shook his head and said, Nanster, you came last year. You're half a head taller than last year. You've developed, but you don't play often. The system needs to readjust. Luo Nan was well aware that the drug stimulation had caused quite a large change to his body over the years. Now there was no more drug stimulation, but under the stimulation of soul strength, the changes would probably be even greater in the days to come. He laughed. Actually, it's nothing. I told you earlier that I wouldn't play sensual games. Why wouldn't you play? Mo Han found it strange. Isn't this the reason we came to Frost River Reality? This. Luo Nan's scan finally went through, but a rare yellow light lit up in the scanning area. There was also a prompt. Distinguished customer, we are very sorry to disturb your gaming progress. Since you are currently undergoing treatment, according to the doctor's advice, please do not engage in highly stimulating games. Strive to update on time tomorrow and try to make up for it. Current payment progress, monthly subscription March 15th. Chapter 170. Following the sound of the notification, Luo Nan's account in Frost River Reality had many privileges temporarily locked down. They were displayed as restricted. Even the peripherals and equipment that were sent over were different from those of other people. Everyone in the room looked at each other in dismay. I've lived long enough to see something like this happen. Even an expert like Mo Cheng had never seen such a situation before. He clicked his tongue in wonder for a time. Luo Nan was calm. The scan results were one thing. The most important thing was that his medical records from Renai Hospital had been entered into the database. This situation only occurred when the two were combined. It could not be said that Frost River Reality was wrong. Many of the current somatosensory games used microstimulation of the nervous system to obtain more realistic effects. For Luo Nan, whose nervous system operated at a high rate, this was a big taboo. Mo Cheng walked over to look at the specific restrictions and shook his head. I can't go to Area A and B. I can only play in Area C. The gaming area of Frost River Reality had a total of 3 levels. Area A was Reality Replica, Area B was Reality Immersion, and Area C was Reality Experience. The intensity of stimulation to the nervous system decreased in order. Of course, the degree of playability was the same. Area C was generally targeted at the elderly, children, or adults who wanted to relax. Young people who pursued excitement generally disdained this area. Luo Nan had talked to Mo Peng about the intensity of the game before he came. He just did not expect Frost River Reality and the hospital to be so extreme. Mo Peng reacted quickly. He spoke with a sense of loyalty. Then how about this? I'll accompany Nanster to Area C to practice his wilderness skills. You guys go wherever you need to go. Luo Nan walked out of the scan area and put on his combat suit peripherals. At the same time, he shook his head. I don't need you to accompany me. You can go play with Brother Seven and the others. It was not easy for a gaming madman like Mo Peng to come here. He definitely wanted to go to the most exciting area, Area A, to experience the effects of reality to the fullest. Mo Peng was still thinking about it. At this time, Tian Si smiled and raised her hand. I can't play games. I can't stand things that are too exciting. I'll stay in Area C. Since she had started, Mo Chio laughed. I'll also stay in Area C. Everyone else can play however they want. Just be careful. Cheng 7, don't go crazy. Watch over everyone. No problem. Mo Cheng said this. It was hard to say how much he listened. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Chen Xiaolin wasn't very interested, but Mo Han and Mo Rui pulled her to Area B. Tian Chi also had a lot on his mind, but he definitely had to be on guard against this kind of natural third wheel. At that moment, Mo Tao and Mo Peng dragged him to Area A. The group of people were quickly assigned and left in a huff. Nanster, where do you want to go play? Mo Chio asked Luo Nan's opinion in a very considerate manner. The problem was that he was closer to Tian Si right now. It seemed that he was really interested in Tian Si. Huang Bingzhen's dirty words didn't affect him at all. Luo Nan didn't have any intentions of being a third wheel. He found a random reason. Third brother, you guys don't need to worry about me. I'm going to the 10 days in the wilderness to do some basic training. I'm also going to train my body in passing. Alone? No, Mo Peng can also turn on the guidance mode in Zone A. I'll call him when I get there. Luo Nan's wristband received a call as he spoke. It was an unfamiliar number. It just so happened that Luo Nan was about to pull away from the 2 main participants of the social gathering. Luo Nan raised his hand and gestured for them to move to the side. Hello, Mr. Luo. I'm Bai Xinyan. Luo Nan was stupefied for a moment before he reacted. Bai Xinyan? Wasn't that the brilliant disciple of Dr. Clay that Octopus Bro had mentioned? The one who had come to Xia City to help Octopus Bro with his early treatment and data collection? Especially since she was Mr. Bai's daughter, Luo Nan hurriedly added a greeting. Hello, Ms. Bai. Bai Xinyan's voice was low and gentle. It was very pleasing to the ear. Mr. Luo, the examination will only start tomorrow night. However, I just retrieved the information from Ren AI Hospital and the association. I saw the results of the automatic examination last night. It seems that there are signs of relapse. How do you feel now? Luo Nan secretly admired this person's strict attitude, but he couldn't say that the wraith sign was cheating him. He could only vaguely say, I really do feel a bit uncomfortable. I feel like the pressure has increased, perhaps your soul power has grown again. There will always be a period of rapid growth before and after an ability user awakens. But for the current you, this is not good news. Bai Xinyan had accurately grasped the root of the problem and was very frank. Luo Nan was mentally prepared. Bai Xinyan continued, for the next step of treatment, I need to update some data here. I hope Mr. Luo can cooperate. I need to go back to the hospital. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Is it? No need. I noticed that the Frozen Star system retrieved your information from Ren AI Hospital about 5 minutes ago. The Frozen Star system. It's the main system of Frost River reality. It's located in the supercomputer Black Dome. It's the carrier of several experimental projects of the Star Alliance Committee, the military, and the Ability User Society. It has a relatively close relationship with us. You're at Frost River reality right now, right? Fudong Avenue in the city center. He had been caught. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. He could only explain, I'm in Area C, and my privileges are locked. No, Mr. Luo. You can't be in Area C. I need you to go to Area A. Frost River Reality Area A's competition space has a classic competition event. You should have heard of it before. It's the Frost River Waterway. Frost River Reality is named after it. Yes, I know. Not only did Luo Nan know, he had personally experienced it. It was when he followed Mo Peng and called Mo Han, Sister Pomegranate. That time was simply too embarrassing. Luo Nan still had lingering fears just thinking about it. The Frost River Waterway is actually a human body limit test project developed by our laboratory. It's equipped with an information collection device that can be used as a detection device to revise the relevant data. Then, Luo Nan was just about to ask when his wristband vibrated. He received an email in his inbox. Inside was an electronic key and the relevant method of use. Bai Xinyan's deep and melodious voice lingered in his ear. This is the temporary privileges of the Frost River Waterway. You can enter Area A through this. Then all you need to do is follow the requirements of the system. Join and do your best to persevere until the end of the game. That's it. Yes, I'll arrive in about 2 hours to extract the data. If Mr. Luo has the strength to spare, you might as well do it a few more times. This will help the system collect more comprehensive information. Luo Nan was very surprised. Ms. Bai has already arrived in Xia City. I just arrived not long ago. Bai Xinyan did not say much. She directly concluded, I'm looking forward to our meeting. I hope you have a good time. The call ended. Luo Nan looked at his wristband. There was an indescribable strangeness. Why did he feel that something was wrong? Hold on. The Frost River Waterway. Do it a few more times. Luo Nan felt that his spine was about to freeze in an instant. Chapter 171. Luo Nan stood still. He stopped at the boundary between Area C and the guide area. Ahead was the reality area filled with AR virtual images. Through the strengthening of the external goggles, these virtual images had a bit of a cartoon flavor to them. It was hard to tell the difference between reality and illusion. Some advanced players could choose their virtual guide. From virtual idols to game heroes, there was no problem. Therefore, the area ahead suddenly became lively and clamorous. Real human figures and virtual images mixed together. It was a dazzling sight. Luo Nan talked as he walked. His speed was very slow. Mo Chio and Tian Si were already in front of him. He thought for a bit and did not enter Area C. Instead, he used the Hexier to contact Bro Octopus. After a week of preparation, Octopus had already begun the research work on Luo Yuandao's psychotropic drug. Plus, he was quite ambitious. He combined Luo Nan's practical results and opened up several groups of drugs for comparative research. He really turned into an octopus, spending several days in a row in high-intensity work. His days and nights had long since turned upside down. When Luo Nan contacted him, Octopus managed to find some time to take a nap in the laboratory. He was still a bit muddle-headed when he picked up the call. But when he heard Luo Nan's description, he instantly woke up. White Salt has returned to the country. He contacted you and wants you to go to the Frost River waterway. Octopus blurted out by Xinyan's nickname. He washed his face again to clear his mind. After pondering for a while, he said, I know about the Frost River Reality Project. The government, the military, the society, as well as many financial groups and companies are all involved. Chairman Ouyang is also a technical consultant. Our psychic wave network platform actually has a transplant. Of course, it's not suitable for you. But if it's somatosensory stimulation, the corresponding danger will be greatly reduced. Frankly speaking, White Salt's plan is a bit radical. But it is very much in line with the style of Dr. Clay's School of Reconstruction. Their school relies on top-notch nerve repair technology. They are very happy to test the limits of the human body in every case. They work on these limits, combining repair and strengthening into one. There is no school that can match up to this advantage. Of course, you need to pay attention to controlling the intensity. Luo Nan roughly understood. Since Octopus said this, there shouldn't be any major problems. He thanked Octopus and hung up. He decided to follow by Xinyan's instructions. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Following that, he followed the instructions on the key email and loaded the electronic key into his social authority system. He obtained temporary authority and connected to the Frozen Star system. Soon, the system guidance arrived. Luo Nan followed the instructions and left Area C. He took the special elevator to the third floor of Frost River Reality. The elevator door opened, and two ushers dressed as female starship soldiers said at the same time, "Welcome, sir." The two guides saw Luo Nan, who had the face of a student, standing in the elevator car wearing eye-catching, restricted, peripherals. The latter half of the guide's speech was a mess. Luo Nan was able to confirm that the two guides were real people and not virtual images. He nodded in response and walked out of the elevator. It was completely different from the bustling scene below. Upon entering the third floor, it was extremely quiet. The gloomy black light and the dense light spots at the top formed a miniature starry sky environment. It was as if even breathing could be heard. Luo Nan could also feel that his arrival seemed to have caused trouble for the two guides, but he couldn't always explain, "I'm just here for a physical examination." He could only feign ignorance and politely ask for relevant information according to the system notification. "I want to go to Frost River number 3. How do I get there?" The two guides, one with long hair and the other with short hair, were both charming and pleasant. The two exchanged a few glances when faced with Luo Nan's question. Only then did the short-haired guide speak. "Sir, Frost River number 3 is an independent area. Can we confirm your corresponding authority?" "Ah, okay." Luo Nan was just about to raise his hand when the long-haired guide made a hand gesture to the side of the scanner to release light. The light swept across Luo Nan's combat suit peripherals and a pale yellow indicator light lit up. Luo Nan immediately received a system notification. "Hello, respected customer. You have accidentally entered an unauthorized area. Please follow the instructions of the nearby guide and leave as soon as possible to avoid causing any accidents." The two guides looked at each other again. When they faced Luo Nan again, they simultaneously revealed professional sweet smiles. "Sir, you have also seen the situation. I hope you can cooperate." "Wait, it's not that. Luo Nan could roughly guess that the authority on his wristband was not connected to the peripherals of Frost River reality. He was just about to explain when the electricity behind him stopped. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. The ladder door opened again and someone walked out unsteadily. Another drunkard. Was Frost River reality an amusement center or a hotel or a restaurant? However, the person who came was clearly a regular customer. The two guides saw him and simultaneously bowed in greeting. Mr. Hu. The drunkard walked over. He looked quite young. He casually placed his arm on the shoulder of the short-haired guide. The latter hurriedly reached out to support him and revealed a sweet smile. Mr. Hu, what do you have in mind? Mr. Hu was still clear-headed. Give me a private room and an environment that can quickly hypnotize me. Let me sleep for a while. Yes, C7. These people can really drink. Okay, Mr. Hu. The short-haired guide supported Luo Nan and walked inside. She indicated to her companion to quickly solve Luo Nan's problem. Mr. Hu moved 2 steps sideways like a crab. He could not walk properly. He got closer to Luo Nan and his drunken eyes swept over Luo Nan's face. At this moment, he was stunned. He suddenly reached out to grab the goggles on Luo Nan's face. Luo Nan took half a step back and avoided the grab. He frowned. Mr. Hu, fellow student. The two guides spoke almost at the same time, but they did not know what to say. It was clear that they could not handle this chaotic situation. Mr. Hu was about to reach out, but at this moment, there was a knock on the door. The door of a room at the end of the corridor opened and a woman in a dark professional suit walked out. Seeing this person, the two guides seemed to have found their backbone. They called out at the same time, Manager Een. The lady also noticed the situation here and walked over. As she got closer, her appearance gradually appeared in the dim light. She looked to be in her 30s. She had a beautiful face and an elegant demeanor. Her exquisite makeup brought out the mature charm of a woman. Her gaze swept across Luo Nan and Mr. Hu's faces. She immediately smiled at Mr. Hu and said, "Little boss, you got drunk the moment you came here. Do you think I specialize in sobering up soup?" Mr. Hu was inexplicably afraid of her. He straightened his body and waved his hand. "Sister Luo, I didn't mean that." Madame Een turned her face again. She wanted to say something to Luo Nan, but she saw this young man staring at her face blankly. He was clearly in a daze. Chapter 172. Kids these days. Madame Een laughed dumbly. She first asked the two guides for the results of the clearance scan. With a glance, she knew what was going on. She walked in front of the drunken Mr. Hu and separated the two of them. She said to Luo Nan, "Student, this is the VIP area of Frost River reality. Judging from the clearance of your equipment, you shouldn't be here." Wait. On the other side, Mr. Hu had sobered up quite a bit. However, when he spoke hurriedly, his tongue was not as smooth as before. After saying, "wait," a few times, he finally managed to squeeze out the rest of the sentence. That brother, you look familiar. Can you take off the mirror and take a look?" Although his words were rough, the meaning behind them was surprisingly polite. Luo Nan's heart skipped a beat. He carefully looked at Mr. Hu's face and saw that the outline of his face was a bit swollen due to excessive drinking. He actually looked a bit familiar. After thinking for a bit, he took off the goggles. With just this one movement, a piece of information suddenly popped up in the corner of his memory. Senior Hu? Aha, Luo Nan, Junior Nan. Mr. Hu shook off the guide's support and came forward to give Luo Nan a hug. Luo Nan could not avoid it for fear that he would not be able to hold on and fall to the ground. Yes, Luo Nan remembered now. This Mr. Hu was the one who had brought the construction society, Yan Yongbu's lawyer, and a bunch of other people to Gear last week. He was the student council cadre who had come to visit. He was Xie Juanping's best friend. Xie Junping called him Hu San. His real name should be Hu Huaying. According to Xie Junping, this person was a bit muddle-headed, but he was a reliable person. However, was his relationship with Hu San that good? On the other side, although Hu Huaying was 70 to 80% drunk, his heart was still clear. He and Luo Nan had only met once, but Xie Junping and Luo Nan were not. Hu Huaying also worked in the club activities department. He had seen everything that Xie Junping had been doing for the past week. Xie Junping had been running back and forth for Luo Nan to join the order club. Ever since they knew each other, when had he ever seen this young master so worried? Even though he was very clear about Xie Junping's sexual orientation, he couldn't help but think, could it be that this bro turned the Xie family's playboy gay? As Xie Junping's best friend, Hu Huaying was very clear about her attitude. Showing enthusiasm was just the beginning, the key was the next step. Junior brother, you have to go to class tomorrow, right? If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Are you done? Hu Huaying expressed that she had always been concerned and took the opportunity to get closer. You want to experience the VIP area, right? Actually, you could have just told me in advance. I still have some shares here. She lowered her voice and raised her voice. Of course, there's also manager Yin Lu. Junping and I call her sister. She's always taken care of us. Sister Lu, this is my junior, Luo Nan. He's very close to Junping. Luo Nan. Yin Lu stared at Luo Nan. The latter lowered his eyelids, looking a little introverted. He called out softly, Sister Lu. Hu Huaying saw that Luo Nan was too introverted and was afraid that he would feel awkward. She laughed. I made a mistake today. No matter what, since I'm here, I'll let junior brother stay in the same room as me. I'm just going to sleep anyway. Luo Nan opened his mouth but didn't say anything. His gaze returned to Yin Li's face and he couldn't look away. Yin Li smiled faintly. Her gaze swept past Hu Huaying and Luo Nan. I still have to give face to the little boss. Sister Lu, you're magnanimous. Hu Huaying laughed and pulled Luo Nan to thank Yin Lu. Luo Nan said, Thank you, Sister Lu. His eyelids lowered again. At this time, Yin Lu sighed helplessly. Luo Nan, I'll call you Brother Nan. You should know how the restrictions came about. You can experience it in the VIP room, but you must take care of your body. Oh, your body hasn't recovered yet, right? I understand. Hu Huaying patted her chest and took charge. God knows if the alcohol had passed. Yin Lu nodded at them. Little boss and Brother Nan, you guys have fun. There's a problem with the renovation of Sky Capital Water Village. I'll go take a look. Hu Huaying laughed. Once the branch opens, it'll be your territory once you leave the school gate, it's all for you bosses to earn money. Yin Lu shook her head and smiled. She bid farewell to the two and walked into the elevator. Before the elevator door closed, Luo Nan glanced at Yin Lu again. However, he was caught by Yin Lu. This female manager, who had an extremely outstanding appearance and style, gave Luo Nan another smile. She gently waved her hand, bidding him farewell. Then, the two guides picked the rooms and led Hu Huaying and Luo Nan to the inner part of the VIP area. According to Hu Huaying's introduction, the overall structure of the VIP area was distributed like a swarm. They were all separated luxurious rooms. Everything in the gaming area below could be found here. This chapter is not finished. Please continue. And it would only be more exquisite. The VIP rooms were like the private rooms below. However, the gaming area was integrated into it. There was also a scanning area in the room. Under the guidance of the two guides, Luo Nan re-entered this area and started scanning again. This time, all the permissions were unlocked and a new set of peripheral equipment was sent over. The two guides had gone through professional training. They stepped forward and helped Luo Nan put on the combat suit and take care of the equipment. Ever since Luo Nan could remember, he had never received the treatment of having someone help him dress. Frankly speaking, there was an indescribable comfort when 4 delicate hands touched his body, be it physiology or psychology. He was even a bit embarrassed. This time, there was no trace of acting involved. Hu Huaying was overjoyed. She kept egging Luo Nan on, wanting to see the world in chaos. The short-haired guide was very courageous. She saw that Luo Nan really did not have much experience. He was a standard rookie, so she deliberately reached out to touch his chest and teased him, "Your acting is quite good. You even called yourself Frost River number 3. You scared us." Luo Nan's heart skipped a beat. He whispered in a hoarse voice, "Can you not tell Manager Ian about this? It's embarrassing. We're not that talkative." As she spoke, the short-haired guide seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head and muttered to her companion. The two of them tried hard to hold back their laughter, but they were not very successful. Little did they know that they could not hide anything from Luo Nan's mental senses. The short-haired guide said, "This kid definitely has a maternal complex." When he looked at Manager Ian, his eyes were glued to her. What could Luo Nan say? He could only pretend that he did not know. It was fine as long as these two people agreed to his request. The problem was that the two guides were not the only ones who thought this way. Hu Huaying was the same. She leaned on Luo Nan's shoulder with the help of alcohol. "Junior Nan, that sister Luo is beautiful but not easy to mess with. Don't get hot-headed or you'll be embarrassed in the future." What the hell was going on? Luo Nan was speechless for a moment. The real reason he paid attention to Ian Luo was actually very simple. They had met before. However, it was through the Wraith Sign's perspective. At that time, Ian Luo appeared at the Blood Flame Order's sacrificial activities as a deputy first oblatum. She was fully deserving of being a high-ranking member of the Order. Frost River reality was worthy of being a cooperative project between the government, the military, and the society. Now, even the Order wanted to get involved. He just did not know if the major shareholders knew about the identity of a sensitive person like Ian Luo. Or was it just a coincidence? Chapter 173. Hu Huaying was still chattering away. Sister Luo is a talent in both technology and management. She was poached by the company at a high price. Apparently, she has a very powerful background. It's not like no one has tried to get her before, but they all ended up in disgrace. Luo Nan could more or less obtain some information about Ian Luo from Hu Huaying's chatter. This was in contrast to what he learned from the Wraith Sign. However, Hu Huaying quickly diverted the topic. She was eager to bring Luo Nan to experience the relatively easy-to-get kind of experience. Luo Nan's response to this was to wear a special tactical helmet peripheral to block out all of the outside world's messy information. The default option of the tactical helmet was augmented reality. The interior of the VIP arena room was designed to look like a starship. Coupled with a bit of AR technology, it was a pretty good immersive experience. However, Luo Nan soon lost his cool. The tactical helmet was gradually affecting his 5 senses to help him further enhance the experience. However, it was precisely this influence that stimulated Luo Nan's mental senses. Under the circumstances where his 5 senses were confused, his all-encompassing senses began to take over everything. Illusory and real scenes intertwined. In the end, the real side still prevailed. Under the clairvoyance of his mental senses, the light and shadow effects were revealed one by one. There was no longer any reality to speak of. Luo Nan felt a bit helpless. This was an unexpected trouble. If this trend continued, he would probably be cut off from virtual reality in the future. Hu Huaying and the two guides were absolutely unable to understand Luo Nan's feelings. After routinely asking a few questions about his impressions, they quietly retreated to avoid disturbing Luo Nan's immersion experience. They each did their own thing. Little did they know that Luo Nan's mental senses gave him a better understanding of their actions. The long-haired guide retreated first. The short-haired guide flirted with Hu Huaying for a while before leaving with a smile on her face. Hu Huaying's anger was ignited. It was not appropriate for her to be presumptuous beside Luo Nan. She could only laugh and curse as she went to the resting area to find a place to sleep. However, he soon received a call. It was probably one of his friends urging him to hurry up. After refusing twice, he could only helplessly get up and quietly leave the room. Just like that, Luo Nan was the only one left in the entire VIP room to carry out his boring attempts. After a few tries, he finally lost all his patience. He took off the tactical helmet and walked out of the high-class fully enclosed maglev cabin. He was lost in thought. This situation wasn't right. If it was only for normal people to use, it would be fine, but from Bai Xinyan and Brother Octopus. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. It was obvious that the association was involved in this project. There were a lot of mentally enhanced people like him in the association. If they all had this kind of out-of-character experience, then wouldn't the Frost River waterway become a joke? Luo Nan discovered that he might have taken a wrong path when he thought about this logic. He hurriedly looked down at his wristband and found the details of temporary privileges in the social privileges section. He then waved his hand. As expected, the system guidance with temporary authority had yet to end. It was still reminding him of the relevant location, and the target was still Frost River number 3. He should have realized it a long time ago. The authority Bai Xinyan gave him was clearly not compatible with the local reality system. They might not even be on the same data chain. You should have told me then. But that deputy officiant is at the side. Am I thinking too much? Luo Nan felt that he had done quite a few unnecessary things just now. When all was said and done, he lacked social experience and his vigilance was too strong. Sometimes he made things complicated. He thought about how he had asked the two guides to keep it a secret not too long ago. Now that he had to ask them for help, it was inevitable that he would be embarrassed again. Luo Nan could not go back to the past. He could only shake his head and walk out with his tactical helmet between his legs. Just as he walked out of the door, he remembered that there was actually a call service in the VIP room. He rolled his eyes at the sky. But at this time, the system guidance on his wristband came. It showed that the Frost River number 3 he had been searching for a long time had entered the signal link range. Do you want to activate it? Luo Nan was dumbfounded. Then he chose, yes. There was a soft sound. The door of a room in front of Luo Nan opened automatically. It was originally pitch black inside, but then the lights automatically lit up. Luo Nan walked over. After he entered, the door closed automatically, isolating the inside from the outside. He felt quite emotional for a moment. He had originally come to examine his body openly. How did he end up doing it sneakily in a moment of carelessness? When the door closed, his wristband clearly vibrated, realizing the data link. The system guidance was fully activated. A very classic virtual image of a female. In any case, it was the type that Luo Nan found familiar. It was projected before his eyes. Hello, Explorer Luo Nan. Welcome to a brand new adventure. I am your guide, Nina. According to the rules of the adventure manual, please enter the scanning area and equip yourself with the appropriate equipment. The scene guidance started just like that. Luo Nan confirmed that it seemed that this room, or perhaps the permission given to him by Bai Xinyan, directly locked the game project. It did not give him the opportunity to choose. This was similar to his experience in the VIP room. This chapter is not finished. Please continue. It was not quite the same. This was nothing. Luo Nan followed the guide and entered the scanning area. This was the third time tonight. The scanning this time was more detailed than the previous 2 times. The duration was longer as well. It even required him to do a few sets of movements from time to time against the released demonstration video. There was no doubt that this gave off a more professional feeling. Luo Nan could feel that the combat suit on his body was undergoing fine adjustments according to his movements, making it more comfortable. Then should he put on the helmet that was placed aside? As he was thinking, the helmet beside him flashed with red light. The virtual guide, Nina, spoke softly, "Explorer Luo Nan, the system has confirmed that your current tactical helmet does not meet the requirements of the adventure. It needs to be changed. Please follow the guide and perform data binding on the new helmet." At the same time, the automatic mechanical platform turned around and presented a new tactical helmet to Luo Nan. Luo Nan took it and scanned it. It seemed to be no different from the previous one just by looking at its appearance. He shook his head and put on the new helmet. But the following interface made him a bit surprised. The interface was pitch black. There was only a silver-white dot of light in front of him. The system guidance asked him to focus his attention on the dot of light. Luo Nan naturally did as he was told. Next, the dot of light split up. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and they spread out to the two sides. Soon, they turned to the limits of the range of his vision. But the system guidance still asked him to lock onto the additional dot of light. If it was a normal person, they would probably be stupefied. But for Luo Nan, who had grasped all-encompassing mental senses, it could not be any easier. Very naturally, he entered the level of mental senses from the basic visual senses. That's right, this was a special guide for ability users. Luo Nan suddenly realized. The dot of light split up into 360 dots. They covered the front, back, left, right, up, down, and so on. Luo Nan locked onto them one by one. Then all the dots of light converged into one. They were located right above the top of his head and pressed into his skull. Luo Nan's mental senses automatically cut inwards. Suddenly, countless lights and shadows appeared before his eyes. They interweaved with each other. After stabilizing, Luo Nan discovered that he had already entered the interior of a starship. The door that had just opened was in front of him. A metal-constructed corridor extended forward. Luo Nan hesitated for a moment before extending his hand to touch the opened alloy door. He saw that he was wearing a glove on his hand. The hard touch of the glove was fed back to him in an incomparably real way. The high wall of illusion and reality shattered with a bang at this moment. Chapter 174. On the east coast of Xia City, there was a dangerous section of the Huanhai Highway. Beyond the guardrail of the highway was a cliff. Under the dark sky, the fine rain was like mist, erasing the boundary between the cliff and the sky. This Huanhai Highway was the first-class highway to be paved with magnetic pavement. In the beginning, it was used as a technical practice. Later, because of its status as a classic, it gradually became the preferred choice for street racers. Although the weather was bad, the thrill-seeking racers did not mind. Sports cars sped along the highway one after another. With the help of the maglev system, they easily reached speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour. The headlights of the car were like a long sword that cut horizontally, cutting the curtain of night and the rain into pieces. They also made the cliff glisten and stand out from the hazy sea and sky. Bai Xinyan stood at the top of the cliff, looking at the staircase road that extended into the distance. The cars racing on the road were like fireflies moving in the opposite direction, gradually becoming indistinguishable in the curtain of rain. Xia City is still the same. There's no difference between it and Luoyang City. Faced with the harsh environment after the war, it was difficult to maintain the cultural characteristics of a large metropolitan area that was built in a hurry. A high degree of homogeneity was inevitable. It was precisely in such a boring jungle of steel that the seemingly turbulent but actually monotonous structure of human nature was created. Because of this, every gifted type is worthy of special treatment, from the perspective of species diversity. Bai Xinyan had her hands in the pockets of her windbreaker. She faced the sea breeze and took a step forward. The fluttering raindrops condensed into fine ice crystals under her feet, carrying her body. Just like this, it condensed, shattered, and solidified, forming a faintly discernible ice crystal staircase. She crossed over the multi-layered road and arrived at the bottom of the cliff. There was no trace of the void behind her. Right now, Bai Xinyan was standing on a protruding platform about 10 meters above sea level. It was big enough for 2 people to stand on. On the inside of the platform, there was a recess of more than 3 meters deep and nearly 2 meters high. Traces of artificial excavation could be seen. Bai Xinyan didn't go in. She looked around and saw that there was an open waterproof metal box inside. Women's clothes were scattered messily on top of it, already soaked by the drizzle that blew in. How many years has it been since I've changed my casual lifestyle? Bai Xinyan looked away and stood on the platform, facing the sea. On one side of the sea, the rain fell like a curtain. It was a hazy scene. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. The wind and rain blew against her windbreaker, making it flutter loudly, but it didn't make her feel the slightest bit wet. Below her, among the jagged rocks, the tide was rising. Thick white foam floated on the blurry outline of the tide, swaying back and forth. Bai Xinyan gazed at the surface of the sea. After a moment, the corners of her lips curled up. The rain that fell around her once again turned into fine ice crystals. They fell onto the rocks in the tide with a rustling sound. In the time it took to take 2 or 3 breaths, the constantly swaying white foam of the tide had turned into all sorts of strange ice crystals, and the chill was still seeping into the seawater. Very soon, the reef and the half-frozen tide formed a twisted silhouette that looked like the face of a ferocious ghost. 1, Bai thought. Bai. He counted to 3. Suddenly, amidst the sound of the wind and the waves, there was a clanging sound that spread far and wide. The ghost face on the surface of the sea suddenly tore open. Correspondingly, the reef cracked and the seawater split. A slender figure broke out of the water from the middle of the crack and screamed. Frozen, frozen to death, frozen to death. Zhang Yingying rushed out of the water. Her tight-fitting diving suit with red and black stripes showed off her good figure, but there was a layer of floating ice on her. Her loose hair was also covered with ice beads, messy and lacking in layers, which made her look a bit awkward. Her bare feet stepped on the slippery rock wall, and with a leap, she flew onto the platform. The sharp aura around her body had yet to dissipate, and as she cut through the curtain of rain, there was a hissing sound. On the platform, Bai Xinyan did not dodge. Instead, she smiled and opened her arms wide to embrace the figure that was charging at her. The camel-colored windbreaker was flipped up and covered both of them. Ah, white salt, white salt. Zhang Yingying was so excited that she wanted to roll around in Bai Xinyan's arms and rub off the ice droplets. Bai Xinyan, on the other hand, did not seem to care at all. She hugged the young girl in her arms tightly, and her chin rested on her hair that was covered in ice beads. She did not say anything, but she continued to smile. The excitement of meeting an old friend finally died down a little. Zhang Yingying put some distance between them. When she saw Bai Xinyan's face, she couldn't help but take a few bites. Aha! You haven't changed at all. You've been in the lab all day, and you haven't melted. But when she truly came back to her senses, she lowered her head to look at the surface of the sea, where the chill had yet to subside. She swallowed back the words she was about to say. Wow. How did you do it? This sort of freezing air has already far exceeded the scope of normal. You're no longer just an architect. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. An extraordinaire? Not yet. It's just a little trick. It's not the same as your white rainbow. But I haven't seen you for 3 years, and you've suddenly become very serious in your training. Zhang Yingying rolled her pretty eyes. Yeah. I'm making a fool of myself. I still want face. Do you? Bai Xinyan used her cheek to lightly rub against the young girl's delicate and slightly cool cheek. Zhang Yingying giggled. Then she asked Bai Xinyan about her plans. This time, we're in Xia City. We're going to be at least a month. How are we going to arrange our schedule? How about you live with me? We'll go play to our heart's content every day. I'm going to see the boss tomorrow morning. Then I'll deal with other matters. I also have an appointment tonight, but it's just a formality. Bai Xinyan's wristband vibrated as she spoke. She glanced at it and nodded slightly. The society has dug up quite a few new people in recent years. This scout is pretty good. Scout? Oh, right. That fellow is your patient. Zhang Yingying's eyeballs swiveled. A few thoughts floated to the surface. Bai Xinyan saw this and knew that this scout was already registered with Zhang Yingying. She took the opportunity to understand the situation. The precision of this person's senses is very impressive. It's the precision direction, but it's closer to the microscopic. Why does he have the nickname Scout? This person, He really does have some talent. Zhang Yingying blinked. She was a bit baffled. You guys haven't met yet, right? How can you tell? I rely on my skills. Bai Xinyan shook her wrist, letting the data on her wristband be mapped out. Zhang Yingying could only understand a part of it, but she grasped the key information: Frost River Waterway. That fellow's nerves are damaged, and he hasn't even awakened yet. Can he hold on? TSK. Is there a need to torment him like this? Bai Xinyan smiled. When a patient receives treatment, he has to walk with two legs. One is confidence, and the other is obedience. Right now, I'm just strengthening the latter element. Zhang Yingying had a baffled expression. That fellow can be a bit jumpy at times, but he hasn't started yet, right? Yeah. He's not being disobedient. I just want to make him more obedient. Oh, pervert. Chapter 175. Luo Nan stood at the entrance of the metal passageway, experiencing the blurry boundary between illusion and reality. Nina's upper body appeared on his retina. Explorer Luo Nan, you need to make a short jump in order to infiltrate the planet's defensive perimeter. Please enter the jump pod. This scenario seemed familiar. The last time he was tricked into coming here by Imo Han, it was more or less the same. Luo Nan walked into the open metal passageway. The light gradually dimmed. At the end of the passageway, the operating console flickered with light. He could see the stars in the depths of space through the circular window. Behind the operating console was a classic high-back starship chair. Luo Nan walked over and sat down. Through Nina's guidance, he adjusted the equipment on the operating console one by one and revised the parameters. All of this was done to help the player adapt to the virtual environment, to minimize the influence of reality to the greatest extent. Luo Nan used his picky eyes to inspect the feeling of his fingertips, the changes in lighting, and the shifting of angles, but it was hard to find any obvious flaws. This degree of realism had already exceeded the limits of reality for the public. It should be due to the mental guidance that had been carried out before. Everything was ready. The window displayed the meaningless coordinates of the adventure area. Nina's voice rang out once more. Please close your eyes and grasp your balance. Resist the dizziness from the short jump. The adventure begins. Luo Nan's body trembled slightly. A peculiar vortex of light appeared in front of the jump pod. The pod started and accelerated. The force of inertia pushed Luo Nan to the back of the chair, and the world spun and flipped. Luo Nan instinctively closed his eyes. The noise of electromagnetism and machinery, as well as the sound of an alarm in the distance, were exceptionally clear. Another jolt followed right after. The feeling of accelerated rotation suddenly disappeared, and the force of inertia flung him out fiercely. What welcomed him was an ice-cold stream of water. A muffled boom rang out and water splashed in all directions. Just as the pain arrived, an even deeper chill penetrated his bones. This was, without a doubt, a rough landing. In the Frost River Channel, the moment one fell represented the complete transformation from reality to virtual. The vast majority of the participants' perception was produced by the stimulation of the nervous system by electrical signals. Luo Nan's experience was more realistic than the vast majority of the participants. Compared to the miserable experience from before, this reality was much more realistic. This chapter is not finished. Please continue. Reality was still precious. He opened his eyes and stood up from the water. His surroundings were still pitch black, but there was a faint light flickering at the edge of his vision. The water below was up to his knees. The current wasn't slow, and it was bone-chilling cold. There were also broken pieces of ice floating on the surface of the water. When they bumped into him, he felt a slight pain. At this moment, the communication device on his collar vibrated slightly. Nina's slightly urgent voice rang out, mixed with some chaotic background noise, continuing to make the environment more real. Explorer Luo Nan, you've just experienced a failed short-range jump. Your combat uniform is damaged to a certain degree. Please take note of the relevant report. For now, please investigate the surrounding situation and send back the relevant information so that we can guide the next step. Before he could finish his sentence, a rustling noise came from the communicator. A strange voice said, "Welcome to the Frost River Bar. Please follow the waterway all the way. We have prepared wine for our guests to warm up." Nina's voice cut in again, "It seems that there are other people here. You can go on an unplanned adventure. Please take note." From the information sent back, the water of the waterway has been mixed with a strange substance. The water temperature has already reached below freezing point. Please move your body to avoid freezing. From this moment on, the challenge of the Frost River waterway began. According to the rules of Frost River reality, the winner of the challenge would enter the Frost River Bar, obtain a prize, leave their game ID, and enter the global rankings. Luo Nan just didn't know what the result of this ability user version would be. Luo Nan followed the route indicated by the tactical helmet. He went against the flow of the water and advanced. The Frost River waterway mission was to test the adaptability of the player's body under the stimulation of a low-temperature environment. Although Luo Nan had tried it once, he had been defeated early on. He did not truly understand the situation inside. He only knew that the length of the waterway was very vague. Some said it was 1,500 meters, some said it was 3,000 meters. Frost River reality had never released the actual data, but it was clear that the waterway was divided into 3 sections. In other words, there were 3 levels of difficulty. The first phase of entering the waterway was about 500 meters. The test was whether the player could maintain the activity of the body under the stimulation of the cold. The middle phase was 500 to 1,000 meters. It involved techniques such as holding one's breath, diving, underwater recognition, and so on. As for the final phase, the length was not determined. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. It involved extremely high-level techniques. It was a test for professional extreme survivalists. Last time, Luo Nan was only able to persist for 100 meters. He could not endure it and was kicked into protective mode. His result was quite embarrassing. The overall trend of the Frost River waterway was downward. After passing 10 meters, the depth of the icy water began to gradually increase. Soon, it reached his waist. The icy water flowed with a gurgling sound. Walking in it was a difficult task, especially with the permeation of the cold. It numbed one's senses, making it very easy for a situation to occur. Luo Nan took a deep breath. Back when he walked in the Frost River waterway, he lost all feeling in his lower body the instant the icy water reached his waist. This time, it seemed to be more or less the same. This had nothing to do with the quality of the body. Instead, it was highly related to the sensitivity of the nervous system. The only difference was that Luo Nan was a bit muddle-headed last time. He was very sensitive to stimulation, but he did not know where his sensitivity came from. Right now, he could clearly feel that external stimulation acted on the cold receptors of his skin, forming nerve impulses that entered his central nervous system. They were conducted all the way to the temperature regulation center of his hypothalamus. His clairvoyance of the state of his body had already entered a level that ordinary people would find it hard to reach. It was a bit strenuous to cut into the cellular scale of the human body with a sensitivity of close to 1/10 millimeter, but when combined with his personal perception, he was still able to grasp a general outline. But this way, the amount of information that needed to be processed increased substantially. A sense of exhaustion quickly assaulted him, and his rapidly decreasing body temperature increased the rate at which his energy was being consumed. Next, his legs went soft, and he fell into the water. He had the helmet to protect him, so he did not choke. But the torrent of ice wrapped around his helmet smashed over with tinkling sounds. The icy water overflowed into his damaged combat uniform, and the chill penetrated deep. The excessive stimulation caused his blood to flow back. His body instinctively prioritized protecting his internal organs. His hands and feet quickly became numb, making him lose the ability to move. There was a boom, and the sharp, enormous ice smashed against his head. The helmet was damaged, and the icy water seeped through. Luo Nan choked to death, and his vision blurred. His consciousness became a bit fuzzy. Nina seemed to say something next to his ear, but he was no longer able to hear it. By the time his consciousness recovered, Luo Nan had already returned to the high-back starship chair he was in before the jump. As expected, he failed the Frost River Waterway Challenge. Chapter 176. Luo Nan leaned against the back of the chair. His hands and feet were powerless for a time. His body needed a certain amount of time to adjust to the changes in the external stimuli. Right now, a hologram was erected in front of him. The central region was a playback of the video. It displayed the details of his actions in the Frost River waterway from multiple perspectives. There was no need to elaborate on his sorry state. All sorts of data appeared around the playback. Many of them were specialized terms. Luo Nan didn't really understand them. Even if he understood, it was hard to understand a project that had been completely digitized. He didn't know what level it represented, whether it was good or bad, due to the lack of comparison. Luckily, he discovered that there was a rather shallow conclusion at the lower center of the hologram. The challenger's body is weak, but he possesses outstanding sensory precision. He is a precision-oriented mentally enhanced. However, he lacks the corresponding information processing skills. He lacks control over his body. He remains in the instinctive stage. Information processing skills. Control. Luo Nan recalled the experience he had just experienced. He had received a lot of information, but that was all. All of his nerve impulses and related reactions were still carried out according to his body's functions. They were carried out step by step. There really wasn't much control. He was quite convinced by this evaluation. Obtaining information was one thing, but processing and controlling it was another. Luo Nan knew that the temperature control center of the human body was located in the hypothalamus. He also knew the relationship between the relevant control areas and the type and nature of the neurotransmitters secreted. He also possessed the corresponding soul strength. It was enough to interfere with the material plane and give sufficient stimulation to the corresponding nervous tissues. But he really didn't know what to do if he let Luo Nan control it. This wasn't something that could be realized with just a thought. If he really did it, what would be the priority? It must be known that the hypothalamus was an important area for regulating the internal organs and endocrine activity. If the stimulation was inappropriate, it wouldn't just be a matter of losing the challenge. He might even play himself to death on the spot. Luo Nan sighed. He looked at his sorry state a few more times and chose to challenge once more. Bai Xinyan wanted him to try many times before. She gave him 2 hours of time. Only a quarter of the time had passed. He still had to practice. The problem was that nothing much had changed when he entered the Frost River waterway once more. The icy water of the Frost River waterway was fine. Please continue to the next page. What gave Luo Nan a headache was the rapid flow of water and the enormous chunks of ice that came crashing down from time to time, as well as other debris. Under the influence of the numbness caused by the cold, Luo Nan simply didn't have the leeway to dodge. He could only fail again and again. Luo Nan's dispirited thoughts were accumulating. He wasn't afraid of failure, but he was very vexed by the feeling of powerlessness that came from being unable to fix his own problems. He had practiced a few times, but he collapsed in the first 500 meters every time. It was the same problem every time. What was the point of trying again? The accumulated emotions had already caused his soul strength to go a bit out of control. Luo Nan simply chose to withdraw. The sealed magnetic cabin opened, and the luxurious high-back chair was restored. Luo Nan sat on the chair and was stunned for a moment. He smashed the armrest heavily and ignored the system notification. He took off his helmet and prepared to take a good breath. But the moment he took off his helmet, all the indicator lights around the high-back chair he was sitting on went off. The guide, Nina, disappeared, but the lights in the room lit up. The atmosphere of business was completely destroyed. His wristband vibrated again, and the system prompted, "You have voluntarily exited the system. Temporary authority has been turned off." Luo Nan was stupefied. He looked at his watch again. Not even half of the 2-hour time limit had passed. He just wanted to take a breather. Who would have thought that the system would turn off so simply? This kind of authority was really too much of a scam. Looking at it from another angle, that Ms. Bai probably didn't plan on giving people the option to rest midway. From the looks of it, that person's temperament wasn't that easy to deal with. Luo Nan's heart spontaneously gave birth to vigilance. He was like a mischievous student facing a strict teacher. And very unfortunately, he did a terrible job on the first assignment that this teacher assigned. His first impression of her had probably been completely destroyed. Luo Nan was a bit troubled, but it was too late for regrets now. The temporary authority had failed, and the illuminated lights revealed a sense of alienation. He could only leave. At this time, the automated mechanical platform rotated to his side. This meant that he had to leave the special tactical helmet behind. Luo Nan was a bit reluctant to part with the helmet when he thought about the difference in experience. This made the regret in his heart grow a step further. Luo Nan hesitated for a moment. He didn't return it for the time being. Instead, he walked back to the scanning area and picked up the other helmet that was placed there. He grabbed one helmet in each hand. "This chapter isn't finished. Please turn the page." He waved his hands. On the surface, there was really no difference between the two. If Luo Nan hadn't gone to Hu Huaying's VIP room first and had an unsuccessful experience, he probably wouldn't have thought that a difference in equipment would cause such a huge difference in experience. But since he had already found the problem, why not continue to put in a bit of effort and thoroughly figure out what the difference was between the two helmets? Luo Nan couldn't restrain his curiosity. He adjusted the precision of his senses, and his soul strength penetrated the interior of the helmet. He knew nothing about the field of precision electronics, but the design and structure of the two helmets were practically the same. This gave him a standard of reference. With this comparison, there were some results. Luo Nan followed his mental senses to compare one area after another. Soon, he discovered that there was a compartment on the helmet of Frost River No. 3 that was roughly stuck to the top of the helmet. There was a chipset installed there. The helmet brought out from Hu Huaying's VIP room also had a similar compartment, but it didn't have a chipset. Clearly, this was where the difference lay. Luo Nan put on the tactical helmet once more, and his consciousness cut in. Right now, there was no system guidance, but the more it was like this, the more fundamental things could appear. He noticed the energy and information roaming within the chip while it was in a charged state. Looking at the material structure, the scale of the energy and information was several orders of magnitude smaller than the cells of the human body. However, the soul's sensitivity towards energy and information was clearly higher. It didn't need to interfere with the material plane to be able to perceive and read the information with relative clarity. Luo Nan was able to detect that the chipset within the helmet of Frost River No. 3 was processing energy and information. It was a very familiar structure. It was extremely familiar. Luo Nan thought back a bit and determined the source of this familiar feeling: Jack, the dynamo core, the Tower of Babel. Yes, The operating form of energy and information within the chipset was relatively crude and rigid. However, the mode of exchange and transformation of information was undoubtedly the Tower of Babel structure that Jack had displayed that night, a certain segment. Even if it was transplanted into the chip, the operating mode of energy and information was essentially the same. Hiss, this was really unexpected. Chapter 177. The reproduction of a portion of the dynamo core's functions. Luo Nan came to this conclusion and was somewhat stunned. He lacked a complete understanding of the origins of the dynamo core. He had more of a guess from the conversation between Jack and Yan Yongbua. This sort of thing should be a cutting-edge product produced by the Apocalypse laboratory behind Quantum Corporation. It possessed overwhelming control over electronic devices. It was a key technology of the fourth-generation burner and could be applied to altered humans. Through special application methods, it could completely break the boundaries between altered humans and burners. For example, Jack. Such sensitive technology had suddenly appeared in Frost River Reality, a virtual attraction project for the masses. Moreover, it had appeared in such a special segment. Even if it was just a small segment, even if the government, the military, the Ability User Society, and various technology companies were all involved, it was still hard to believe that this was just a coincidence of heroes having the same idea. Was it a repeated experiment hidden within the project? Or was the Apocalypse laboratory also involved in the project? Did the society know about this situation? The series of questions made Luo Nan a bit stupefied. It seemed that he had once again stepped into some muddy water. Of course, as long as he could face the truth, he was more than happy to do so. Luo Nan muttered to himself as he weighed the chip helmet a few times. His eyes gradually lit up. He certainly could not take this helmet away. He certainly could not dig out the chipset inside, but he had a more perfect substitute. His dynamo core, the external neuron. Luo Nan had never used his own dynamo core to build the Tower of Babel. He was worried that his body would not be able to withstand it and he would end up like Jack. But now he had a complete set of peripherals for Frost River Reality. He used the dynamo core's dominance over electronic equipment. The two combined to recreate the immersive virtual experience specifically provided for ability users. It would not be a big problem. The experience was a small matter. If he could dig out some deep information from it, then that would be a huge harvest. Luo Nan could no longer endure it. He could not use Frost River number 3, but it was fine. He could change locations. He immediately threw away the chip helmet, hugged his original equipment, and strode out the door. Frost River number 3 immediately closed behind him, unable to be opened again. He did not care. He quickly walked back to Hu Huaying's VIP room. The facilities here were still in an active state. The room was empty. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Alone. Luo Nan took a deep breath and walked onto the high-back starship chair. He put on the tactical helmet that was missing a crucial chipset and connected it to the system. For aptitude users, without the mental guidance function of the chipset, the so-called tactical helmet was just a clumsy toy. They could not control the penetration of mental senses at all. All the virtual scenes became a joke. But this time, Luo Nan was neither impatient nor impatient. His thoughts stirred within this disordered light and shadow. The external neuron that had been hiding between the left and right thalamus, at the location of the central mass, extended noiselessly. It pierced into the area of the chip. It sensed a bit, and the structure automatically forked, docking with the reserved interface. Energy and information converged and operated. The process was clearly displayed, and the structure was not much different. However, it was 100 times, 1,000 times more exquisite than a chipset simulation. And the amount of energy and information it could carry and process was also hundreds or even thousands of times more. Luo Nan felt his helmet heat up. Compared to the dynamo core's almost limitless processing power, the helmet itself was a bit unable to hold on. But this wasn't a big problem. At this very moment, Luo Nan's mental senses no longer expanded outwards. Instead, he found a direction to entrust his mental senses to. It was just like the feeling of storing his soul strength within the dynamo core, unable to bear the heavy burden of the past few days. It was just that the inside of the dynamo core was empty before. It was like a deep and silent void. But now it had color and structure. And layer upon layer, it grew more and more gorgeous, gradually forming a world. Luo Nan's consciousness wandered within, sensing in detail. This kind of guidance was much stronger than those divided specks of light. And it wasn't like the chip, which was always separated by a layer. Instead, it was completely and thoroughly touching. It was truly wholehearted immersion. What would happen? In a flash of thought, his mind was completely immersed. It was as if time had flowed backward. When Luo Nan came back to his senses, he was already back in the jump pod. He was facing the operating console and the circular window. The pressure of the combat uniform, the weight of the helmet, and the support of the high-back chair were all transmitted back to the central nervous system through the sensors all over his body. They interweaved with the scene before his eyes, which was indistinguishable from reality and illusion. Luo Nan was completely brought into this marvelous world. At this very moment, there was no system guidance. There were only two graphical options on the circular window before his eyes. Luo Nan's scalp went slightly numb the instant he saw the graphic. The graphic on the right was a simple sphere. This chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page. And the one on the left was the one he was the most familiar with. The visualization graphic, the format pyramid. Perhaps he had been in a daze for too long, but the system finally spoke once more. It was still Nina's clear female voice. Do you need a novice guide? Yes. Please select the activity mode, 1, archetype mode. 2, optional mode. Following Nina's instructions, the visualization graphic and the sphere lit up one after another on the circular window, indicating which was the archetype and which was the optional mode. Archetype Luo Nan felt a bit awkward, but a certain excitement of being able to peek into a great secret heavily bombarded his heart. He felt strands of cold air seep through the gaps of his teeth. His gaze involuntarily locked onto the most familiar graphic. Select Archetype mode. The visualization graphic lit up and shifted to the center of his field of vision. The other sphere gradually faded away. At the same time, a certain man's deep voice rang in Luo Nan's ears. In a certain sense, every person is a pile of molecular polymers. And every person's life process is the oxidation process of this pile of molecular polymers. The human body itself is in the midst of combustion. Luo Nan felt a trembling electric current run through his spine when he heard these words. A layer of goosebumps covered his entire body. He nearly jumped out of his chair for a moment. But another force made him motionless. The deep male voice continued, the combustion of ordinary people is inefficient, whether it's production, storage, or utilization. It limits our body structure, affects our lifespan, and through heredity, affects our form of existence for generations to come. But as the mysteries of life are explored in depth, it is hard for people to be satisfied with this kind of inefficient mode. People unceasingly try to improve it. Muscles, bones, internal organs, nerves, genes, consciousness. Traces of technological transformation are left behind in every domain. Yet they are fragmented and not systematic. This continues until people choose a completely new structural system to truly integrate the fragmented results together. The visualization graphic enlarged in Luo Nan's field of vision. Countless lines interweaved, outlining the outlines of bones, internal organs, nerves, and muscles. Then they pieced together to form a complete human body. The human body was placed within the visualization graphic and sat majestically. This is the burner that transcends human tradition. This is the embodiment of a certain direction of evolution. Chapter 178. Luo Nan experienced another failed teleportation and returned to the Frost River waterway with a rumbling sound. The rapid flow of water and debris flooded his body, bringing a bone-piercing chill. Luo Nan did not immediately stand up. Instead, he pressed his head, which was wearing the tactical helmet, into the water. He used the cold and rapid flow of water to clear his head. When he decided to use the dynamo core to replace the chipset and connect with the frozen star system of Frost River reality, it was hard for him to imagine that he would dig up information to this degree. It turned out that the temporary authority Bai Xinyan gave him did not touch upon the core of this virtual reality project. It was only when the antennae of the external neuron touched upon the lowest level of the frozen star system that he was able to see its deep mysteries. Simulating a burner. A burner's simulator. Frost River reality, which was loved by young people, had this kind of function. Okay, this was completely within reason. The government and the military were involved, and it was a huge project like virtual reality. It was very normal to borrow the chicken to lay the egg, to do some model construction, actual combat deduction, and so on. However, this kind of optimization that was specifically targeted at ability users and burners, as well as the technological methods used, really made one's imagination run wild. Luo Nan was already used to skipping over the familiar plot guide, so he did not pay too much attention to it. He just pondered over his current state, wanting to see what was different in the end. Suddenly, Nina's warning streaked across his ears. Please pay attention to the internal energy reserves of the archetype format. Allocate your energy properly and avoid freezing. Huh? The lines changed. Luo Nan suddenly realized something. He still remembered that Nina's guide process was to indicate that his combat uniform was damaged and that the water in the waterway was abnormal. Then she said, please move your body sufficiently to avoid freezing. What the hell was this internal energy reserves that suddenly popped out? The scene on his retina changed as this thought flashed through his mind. A thick, white U-shaped symbol appeared in the lower left corner, reminding Luo Nan of his attention. When Luo Nan's gaze was focused on the U-shaped symbol, the deep and low background explanation rang out once more. Through the introduction of the archetype format, burners transcend the traditional inefficient combustion mechanism of humans. They fully convert and utilize the internal energy of the human body to obtain a higher utilization efficiency. When the explanation rang out, the U-shaped symbol changed color. It changed from its initial white color to red, orange, and green. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Red, blue, purple, and then return to the original white. During this period, the colors in the U-shaped logo kept rising and falling, revealing the most important information in a visual way. Luo Nan combined the relevant text with the explanation and soon understood the meaning within. Burners could utilize the archetype format to continuously transform, store, and increase the internal energy of the human body. The water level within the U-shaped symbol was the amount of internal energy reserves that could be utilized. And the color changes of the spectrum were the energy forms arranged from low to high efficiency. There were a total of 6 levels. It was obvious that when a burner's internal energy reserves were very close, the key factor that determined the level of their abilities lay in the form of energy. C. The chemical energy, naturally generated in the body of a strong man weighing 100 kilograms combined with the mechanical energy, produced by his muscles was a joke compared to the antimatter annihilation reaction, created by a strand of a baby's fetal hair. Of course, this comparison itself was a joke. But this was the secret of the burner's power, or at least a very important part of it. Luo Nan stood up straight. The ice-cold water continued to wash over him without end, causing the temperature of his body to rapidly decrease. He didn't move. Instead, he waited. Where was the internal energy reserves? Where was the archetype format? Even though his body was within a game system, Luo Nan didn't believe that he was simply playing a game. The so-called internal energy reserves and archetype format shouldn't be concepts set up by the game. They shouldn't be labeled as data. There must be some sort of concrete experience, even though the method he used to enter this place wasn't very standard. BZZT BZZT BZZT, a strange noise rang out. The scene displayed on Luo Nan's retina and the background explanation by his ear became a bit fuzzy. It was clear that there was a strong interference. The interference passed in the span of a second or two. But whether it was the background explanation or Nina's system guidance, there was no follow-up. There was only the singing that came from the radio waves of the Frost River bar in the distance. It mixed with the clamor towards Luo Nan, who was within the waterway, and it called out, "I used the fine wine of my memories to fan the flames, to solidify her within the layer of ice." Luo Nan could feel the top of his head lightly vibrate amidst the cold and intermittent singing. A numb and crisp feeling spread from top to bottom, layer by layer, from the top of his head. Please continue to the next page if this chapter doesn't end. It gradually spread to his shoulders, neck, chest, back, waist, and legs. In the end, it converged to the soles of his feet. During this time, his brain, spinal cord, and even the 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves all transmitted fine feedback. Moreover, this spurred the nearly 1,000 bones, muscles, and even the billions of blood vessels and fibers in his entire body to form an innumerable signal that was transmitted back to the central nervous system of his brain. Luo Nan wanted to distinguish these signals one by one, to clearly understand the meaning contained within, and to instantly make the correct response. Even if Luo Nan's brain was transformed into a supercomputer, he still wouldn't necessarily be able to do it. But when these signals swarmed over and circled around the external neuron, they instantly separated into a marvelous order. Some were a bit stronger, some were a bit weaker. Some were a bit more urgent, some were a bit more relaxed. If Luo Nan were to clarify their respective positions and arrange them in a dense manner, it would be like drawing. Different shades of lines and shadows would instantly combine to form a direct and deep structural whole. Next, Luo Nan's consciousness naturally sprouted, directly embedding itself into the center of gravity that dominated the structural balance. Driven by some marvelous thought, Luo Nan sat back down in the water. He assumed the double-coiled body posture and his entire body was fixed at the bottom of the river. From the top of his head to the two sides, his shoulders, his elbows, and his knees formed two perfectly straight diagonal lines. They connected to the bottom of the river, forming a stable pyramid structure. The rapid scouring of the water pounced onto his head in an instant. The powerful pressure from the outside world was transmitted in layer by layer, transforming into energy and information. It was transmitted between the millions and millions of nerves, blood vessels, and fiber tissues. In the end, it formed a weak but just right stimulation. It was like a tiny spark that was thrown into the center of gravity where Luo Nan's consciousness was located. It was as if he had thrown himself into a deep pool filled with kerosene. Boom! The flames leaped and soared, practically engulfing everything. Of course, this wasn't a true fire. It could only be said that the pouring of his consciousness had magnified this feeling. But when Luo Nan's consciousness shifted away and he sensed normally, there was clearly a mass of warm energy radiating from his lower abdomen. It was at this moment that the pure white water level of the U-shaped symbol on his retina suddenly dropped. It dropped all the way to a third of its original value before it barely stopped falling. But it still trembled endlessly. The momentum didn't look too good, but Luo Nan could feel a sense of control and acuity that corresponded with his body's sensations. Chapter 179. Luo Nan opened his eyes, but he still maintained his sitting posture. He let the penetrating cold water flow shatter the ice and continuously beat against his chest. Occasionally, a cold blade splashed out. It seemed to be able to penetrate the defense of the tactical helmet and directly cut his face. It also seemed to be releasing mocking whispers. "Ha, what's appearing in your body right now? What's jumping?" What appeared was the archetype format. What jumped was the format of fire. Luo Nan did not immediately jump down from the starship high-back chair. He had already expected this result. He was even looking forward to it. If it was a week or two ago, he might have refused this opportunity out of some sort of self-esteem. But when he used the format of My Heart's a Prison to subdue the human-faced arachnid, to construct the format pyramid, to enter the out-of-body state, and to observe reality and illusion, many of his thoughts were greatly different. Only when a person had a firm foothold could they use an unhurried and objective attitude to face the problems of reality. Luo Nan was already convinced that the formatting theory he had inherited did indeed have practical effects. It was not inferior to the archetype format in any way. It was even more magical on the mental plane. But he also admitted that the archetype format had gone very deep into the development and application of the body's potential. It had already established a relatively complete system standard. It was an extremely amazing thing to be able to successfully reproduce it in the virtual reality system. What he needed to do right now was to dig deep into the mysteries within. From the archetype format itself to the source of reproduction and technology, he would not let a single strand slip by. The water level of the U-shaped symbol continued to fluctuate and fall, showing that Luo Nan's internal energy reserves were continuously being consumed. However, this consumption had already shown its value. Right now, the temperature manifested by the internal energy in Luo Nan's lower abdomen was very real. Even under the pressure of the cold, it still firmly wrapped around his abdomen, causing his entire internal organs to feel a bit warm. Luo Nan got up and moved his hands and feet a bit. The effects of the internal energy manifesting were even more obvious under the state of movement. The energy of his entire body had an axis. Admittedly, heat was being consumed at all times, but a considerable portion was controlled, circulated, and flowed through the axis. It flowed from his upper limbs to his lower limbs, from places with high heat to places with low heat. It was naturally and efficiently distributed, maintaining the normal functions of the body. Luo Nan felt as if the outer layer of his skin and flesh had formed an armor propped up by heat. The bone-piercing cold didn't seem that unbearable anymore. Yes, that's it. This was the same nervous system control effect that Luo Nan had tried repeatedly in Frost River Room 3. But when it comes to the precision of the hypothalamus, if this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. When it came to complex structures, he gave up because he wasn't confident. But now, through internal energy and the archetype format, everything was done easily and naturally. When Luo Nan observed from the perspective of a bystander, he was able to sense that the front and back areas of the hypothalamus were stimulated, as well as the hot and cold sensors that covered the entire body. They coordinated and stimulated the tissues of the body up, down, inside, and outside in a highly resonant manner. They transported heat to and fro, forming a fine heat net that covered the entire body. The nerves, blood vessels, muscle fibers, and even more secretive and fine conduction pathways were involved. Compared to Luo Nan's own imagination, this regulation method was more than 1,000 times more complicated. However, this method of regulation was not brain-burning. All he needed to do was think about it and send out an unclear command. The archetype format completed all of this with the support of the internal energy reserve. Luo Nan began to walk forward with large strides. The effects of the heat armor were extremely outstanding. Even though the water level of the waterway gradually rose and the surface of contact between the ice water and his body grew larger and larger, his body's reactions became more and more sensitive. He could easily avoid the enormous floating ice that was washed down by the rapid current. He could also feel the rapid and unstable undercurrents, controlling his body in time to maintain his balance. Soon, he walked 200 to 300 meters away, far exceeding all previous records. It's really important to have a good software. Luo Nan suddenly felt a bit emotional. Because of the existence of the archetype format, he didn't need to directly face the complex and precise nervous system. Instead, he could use his internal energy to control it and realize idiot-like operations. He could focus more of his energy on responding to external stimuli. Luo Nan's self-format was the same. Did he know how to control the human-faced arachnid? Did he know how to increase his believers? He didn't know a single thing. Even if he had 10 times the strength he had right now, he would still need to personally experience all the details. He would need to dig all the way from the application all the way to the bottom layer. He would need to complete every link perfectly. But because he had the format pyramid of, "My heart's a prison," everything became easy. All he needed to do was to unearth the potential of the format pyramid, provide it with the required energy, and experiment with more efficient application methods. That was all. The current situation was quite interesting. The majority of Luo Nan's self-format targeted the soul and the mental plane. It didn't have any special effects on the fleshly body. The archetype format mobilized the potential of the human body to a large degree. It fully realized the control and application of various parts of the human body. But in the mental domain, the results could only be described as mediocre from the various examples he had seen recently. What were the factors that caused these two to be? This chapter has yet to end. Please continue to the next page. How could there be such a large divergence in the theory of originating from the same source? Thinking a step further, if the two were to be combined, would it be possible to create a formatting software that could be used simultaneously on the mental and material planes? Luo Nan was unable to find an answer for a time, but he was very clear on one point. Right now, he could only be said to be in contact with the archetype format software for the first time. His body hadn't truly formed the archetype format. The reason was very simple. The stimulation the archetype format gave his body right now, whether it was the operation of his brain and spinal cord, or the arrangement of the 43 cranial nerves and spinal nerves, all of them were different from his own format. The two were similar in design concept, but the details and emphasis were completely different. They could be compared, but they couldn't be confused. What he sensed right now was nothing more than the stimulation the system gave him. In essence, it was just like the incessant pounding of the icy stream of water. It was just some sort of data model projected onto his body. Though its effects were real, and it really did stir up a portion of his strength, transforming his internal energy reserves and igniting the format of fire, its foundation was still empty. Luo Nan wasn't disappointed. The archetype format wasn't something he could casually use when it came to the modification of the deeper mechanisms of the body. It was already beyond his imagination that he could experience it for himself. The majority of Luo Nan's attention was projected onto his own body. His perception of the outside world gradually blurred. The only thing he could experience was the depth of the water. Right now, the icy water had already gradually submerged his chest, followed by his neck. Walking normally was practically impossible. Luckily, Luo Nan knew a bit about water, so he was able to walk and swim. But in this way, he had completely lost his grasp of time and distance. Right now, had he traveled 500 meters? Right when Luo Nan was about to look for the system to confirm, he felt a void beneath his feet. The tip of his toes could no longer reach the bottom. From here on out, the depth of the water exceeded his height. This was fine, but the problem was that the thick layer of rock above the water's surface was already within reach. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the water completely submerged this long passageway. Not even the slightest crack would be left. The second stage. Right when Luo Nan was considering how to pass through this stage, a rumbling sound rang out. The rock wall behind him collapsed, and another stream of water rushed out. The two streams of water collided, forming a vortex of extraordinary strength. It instantly sucked him in and flung him fiercely, smashing him against the uneven cliff wall. He was smashed stupidly on the spot. His tactical helmet was damaged, and the icy stream assaulted him. What hot net? What armor? None of it was of any use. Luo Nan's consciousness fainted, and the world shifted in an instant. Chapter 180. I failed again. But the difficulty has clearly increased. That's right, it's specially designed for burners. Luo Nan withdrew from the Frost River waterway. He didn't plan on continuing the experience for the time being. He just sat on the high-back starship chair and squinted his eyes. He felt the discomfort of his body after the stimulation signals left his body one after another. Even without the scouring pressure of the icy water, his body seemed to have become several dozen kilograms heavier. The coordination of his various parts seemed to have problems. His entire body was like an old machine without oil. His joints were a bit stiff. There was also the soreness and twitching caused by the tearing of some of his muscle fibers. This was the contrast caused by the separation of the archetype format's model. The amount of discomfort he felt right now was proof of the large gap between his body's standards and that of a passing standard. Only after a minute did Luo Nan begin to move his fingers. He regained control of his suddenly unfamiliar body. An analytical light screen had already been erected in front of the high-back chair at this time. It displayed the factors of success and failure in this waterway adventure in an unending stream. Luo Nan habitually looked at the evaluation first. The evaluation on it was unprecedentedly harsh. As a burner, the basic archetype format has made an unbelievably low-level error. The distribution of internal energy is at the beginner level. The coordination between the body and internal energy is close to zero. It is recommended that the format be immediately examined for errors and undergo strict foundational training. If necessary, the format should be reforged. It's that bad? Luo Nan rubbed his head. He couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps it was because the system's requirements had suddenly increased by a lot according to the standards of a burner, then a three-dimensional image of a full body appeared on the holographic screen. Red and green dots of light and blue and white lines marked the densely packed nodes and silhouettes. The red dots representing errors could be said to be ghastly to the eye. Luo Nan was a bit surprised by this, since it's a template chosen for the dynamo core. How come there are so many errors? He casually chose a red dot on his chest and several dots in the surrounding area lit up. It even involved another set of nodes far away in his legs. It showed that there was a very systematic connection between them. And on the holographic screen to the side, a close-up of the corresponding area appeared. There was a clear diagram on it, showing the internal energy as the axis. The relevant energy and information flowed, converged, and transformed within the special structure of this area. This included mutual interference, and even the material layer. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. The facial nerves, blood vessels, muscle fibers, bones, and internal organs were directly or indirectly affected. Even though Luo Nan didn't fully understand many of the models and formulas, he had the basic concept of the circulation of energy and information. He was able to more or less guess many of the parts. It was hard and strenuous for him to read for a time, but he enjoyed it with keen interest. Very quickly, he found the problem. No wonder there were so many errors. Many of the nodes on the archetype format were actually affected by the interference of the self format. They were misaligned or confused. Even though Luo Nan had deliberately distinguished between the problems of the virtual world and the real world, he had formed his instincts over the past 5 years. His soul strength had increased greatly in recent days, and his imprints had continued to deepen. These imprints could not be easily erased. It could be seen from the playback system that the archetype format model had transformed in less than half a minute after it covered Luo Nan's body. Many key nodes had been displaced, and the virtual format of fire had yet to ignite. What was strange was that he was still able to successfully ignite the first time when many pairs of nerve wiring were disrupted and distorted. What kind of logic was this? Luo Nan subconsciously pressed his hand against his lower abdomen. He didn't know if it was because of the heat conduction from his palm or something else, but he actually faintly felt that there really was a bit of warmth in this position. It gathered and did not disperse. Oh. Strange. Luo Nan was puzzled no matter how he thought about it. He could only continue to refer to the system's analysis and playback in search of the reason. But as he watched and watched, he was faced with the comprehensive, thorough, and all-encompassing analysis screen. He was a bit stunned. Just this error correction system alone was something that his current, family workshop, style of research on the format was absolutely incapable of reaching. With such a system, with such timely and accurate simulation, playback, and error correction methods, as long as one had a bit of talent and knowledge in this area and was able to put in hard work, it would be very difficult for one not to succeed over the years. No wonder the deep blue walkers had already gathered the scale of 4 or 5 divisions in a short 5 or 6 years. And they were still continuing to expand. The archetype format theory had indeed soared to the skies in one bound after obtaining the support of capital and political power. The possibility of realizing a counterattack against it in the current social context was close to zero. As expected, I can only expand my influence in the ability user society. This chapter is not finished. Please continue to the next page. I've made some progress as a psychic or as a scout, but it's far from enough. It's far from enough. Luo Nan was a bit distracted. It was also at this time that his wristband vibrated. He received a call. It was Mo Chio. Third brother. Nanster, where are you? Mo Chio went straight to the point. Luo Nan was a bit startled. I'm upstairs. Where are you upstairs? Forget it. You can come down now. Actually, Mo Chio didn't care where Luo Nan was. He let out a long breath when he got through to him. Come to the guide desk in the reception hall. I'll wait for you here. Third brother, what's going on? It's nothing. Peng 17 just played with fire and overreacted a bit. I think it's best to go home and rest early. Hurry up and come down. Oh. Okay. The two hung up and Luo Nan frowned. This third brother Chio was clearly lying. His words contained a forceful calmness. He probably didn't want a kid like him to worry. But the nervousness in his words had long since sold him out. What happened? Luo Nan's mind spun a few times, but he didn't tarry. He took off his peripheral equipment and walked out of the VIP room. As he was about to close the door, he remembered that Hu Huaying was the one treating. According to etiquette, he should at least give her a heads up. But he didn't give her a way to contact him. Luo Nan shook his head and walked quickly to the elevator. Not long after, he saw the two pretty guides. The long-haired and short-haired guides revealed sweet smiles. They raised their hats playfully from afar. Hello, officer. Luo Nan nodded in response. He walked closer and said to the two, when Senior Hu comes over, you guys tell him that I have business to attend to. I'll be leaving first. The short-haired guide opened her eyes wide. Officer Luo, aren't you going to play a bit longer? It hasn't even been an hour. No, I have business to attend to. Luo Nan nodded to the two and walked toward the elevator. The two guides looked at each other when they saw Luo Nan's hurried appearance. They bowed in unison. We will definitely pass on your message. The elevator's door rang and opened to the side. Luo Nan was just about to enter when he saw 4 or 5 people walking out, laughing and laughing. They all looked drunk. One of them was Hu Huaying. Chapter 181. Luo Nan saw Hu Huaying, and Hu Huaying also saw Luo Nan. This bro's heat had yet to subside. She immediately staggered forward, patted Luo Nan's shoulder, and hugged him. Junior Nan, what's up? Playing by yourself is boring. I just happened to bring a bunch of brothers over. Let's start the game together and play Wilderness. Or something more exciting. It's okay, Senior Hu. My friend has something to do over there. Let me go down. I'll be taking my leave first. Luo Nan was polite. He didn't want to get tangled up with this drunkard. Hu Huaying blinked her eyes. Her mind was still not clear. My friend invited me over to play. We're all very familiar with each other. I usually play with Junping. He raised his hand, wanting to introduce them one by one, but Luo Nan grabbed his forearm. Luo Nan locked gazes with Luo Nan and spoke softly, no need senior. There will be opportunities in the future. Ah. Hu Huaying was suddenly at a loss for words. After a few, sounds, she finally knew how to respond. That's fine too. A few other drunkards surrounded the entrance of the elevator at this time. They had long since sized Luo Nan up. Most of them had no interest in him, but they were more interested in the two charming guides. Luo Nan gave Hu Huaying another nod. He turned his body and squeezed past this group of people. The person in the middle was probably drunk to the point of numbness. His body wasn't nimble. He bumped into Luo Nan's shoulder and staggered. His eyes widened as he wanted to flip out, but he was pulled away by the person beside him, making a path for himself. It wasn't Hu Huaying who pulled him away, but another acquaintance. Luo Nan's gaze swept over to that side and he saw Lu Tao's scholarly face wearing glasses. It could be seen that this person was probably the most clear-headed out of all of them. Seeing Luo Nan shift his gaze over, Lu Tao lightly adjusted his glasses. The corner of his mouth twitched as a greeting, but his expression was a bit stiff. It seemed like she hadn't decided whether she should pretend not to know him or treat him as an acquaintance. He was probably at Lu Tao's place, but he wasn't sure whether or not Luo Nan would be able to recognize him. Little did Luo Nan know that Luo Nan's impression of Luo Nan had already surpassed that of Lian Yu, Li Xuecheng, and the others, who had crossed paths with Luo Nan and clashed with Lian Yu and Li Xuecheng back on the warship. But since he was so conflicted, Luo Nan would just pretend that he didn't know him. Seeing Lu Tao here solved one of Luo Nan's doubts. No wonder he encountered drunkards one after another tonight. Sure enough, a bunch of second-generation rich kids were having a gathering here. Thinking about it, there were not many people in all of Xia City who could treat Frost River Reality as a hotel or restaurant. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. I didn't see Huang Bingzhen. Luo Nan entered the elevator and nodded once more towards Hu Huaying in greeting. Soon, the elevator door slowly closed amidst the bidding farewell of the pretty guide. Lu Tao watched as the metal doors of the elevator closed. He confirmed that Luo Nan couldn't see him anymore. He finally let out the breath he had been holding in his throat. He didn't have much drunkenness to begin with, but all of it was let out with this breath. He turned his head and wanted to ask Hu Huaying, "Why is this guy here?" but the latter was still smiling and waving at the elevator door. Cursing inwardly, Zhang Xian hesitated for a moment before raising his wrist to contact someone. Who knew that another sound would ring out at this time? The elevator door that had just closed suddenly opened once more. Luo Nan was still alone in the elevator that was supposed to go down. His gaze swept across the faces of the group of drunkards outside the elevator. Lu Tao's heart suddenly twitched. His raised wrist froze in place. Luo Nan's gaze finally stopped on Hu Huaying's body. He revealed a faint smile and raised his wrist as well. He took a step forward. "Senior Hu. Leave me your contact details." Hu Huaying was baffled. She slapped her head when she heard this. "Look at my brain. Come. Let's add each other as friends. Let's keep in touch when we're in school." The two's wrists lightly touched and they added each other as friends on their wristbands. Hu Huaying enjoyed Luo Nan's display of goodwill. She patted Luo Nan's shoulder a few times. Luo Nan smiled as he accepted it, but he wasn't in a hurry to retreat. His gaze swept around and inexplicably locked onto Lu Tao's face. At this moment, Lu Tao looked straight into Luo Nan's eyes. Lu Tao's heart seemed to suddenly stop beating the moment his gaze made contact with those unclear pupils. He clearly knew that this reaction was too clumsy. He wanted to adopt a natural posture, but how could the instinctive reaction of the human body be controlled just because he wanted to? Lu Tao didn't know what kind of expression he had right now. He could only see that Luo Nan's gaze was fixed on his face. The smile he gave to Hu Huaying was still there, but he felt that something was wrong. Luo Nan's gaze moved down approximately half a second later. Luo Nan's eyes seemed to have a magnetic force. Lu Tao unconsciously moved down as well, just in time to see his own raised arm. In an instant, it was as if his arm had been branded by a red-hot branding iron. He suddenly pulled back and struck his own chest. Luo Nan's voice didn't fluctuate in response to this utterly terrible reaction. "Senior Lu. Let's add each other as friends. This chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page." Huh? Ah. Okay, okay. Lu Tao didn't even know what he was saying. He watched Luo Nan's arm move forward. He was like a marionette as he moved his arm forward. A slight vibration indicated that the two had finished adding each other as friends. On the other side, Hu Huaying's somewhat blank eyes hooked back. She said vaguely, "You guys know each other?" When these words entered his ears, it was as if Lu Tao had been struck by lightning. He was stupefied on the spot. Luo Nan acted as if nothing had happened. He retreated back into the elevator and answered simply, "We've seen each other quite a few times last week. See you seniors." The elevator door closed once more and the number indicated that it had gone down. At this time, the other three people that Luo Nan had ignored began to come back to their senses. They were both baffled and annoyed. Someone said, "This fellow is quite arrogant. Where did he come from?" Lu Tao was already unable to hear Hu Huaying's reply clearly. His mind was a bit absent-minded right now. He raised his wrist and the contact list interface still displayed Luo Nan's name. He scrolled forward and saw that the contact he had just tried to make was not too far away. At this very moment, the wristband that was as light as a feather was clearly pressing down on his wrist. No, no, no. That fellow actually isn't that amazing. Lu Tao did his best to recall last week's incident at the restaurant. Luo Nan's miserable appearance when Yan Yongbua had casually soaked him. But in the end, all the images returned to the depths of Luo Nan's mottled pupils. The demonic and cold colors suffocated him to the point where he nearly suffocated. Lu Tao couldn't help but smack his head, F***ck me. Your brain is broken. You think you're smart. Taoster. What are you doing? Hu Huaying had a baffled expression on her face. "I didn't know that you and Luo Nan were in contact. Did you also get to know him through Brother Ping?" Lu Tao gaped. He didn't know how to respond at all. In the end, he raised his wrist once more. The contact list on the screen scrolled up and down along with his eyeballs, tossing back and forth between two names. Right when he didn't know what to do, one of the two names suddenly enlarged. It nearly filled his eye sockets. Huang Bingjin. The call connected. This idiot whose brain was half grainy and the other half was hallucinogenic shouted with his big tongue, "Taoster. Hurry up and come over. All of you come over. I'll let you experience what supernatural powers are." Chapter 182. Luo Nan walked out of the elevator and raised his wrist to look at his wristband. The friend he just added didn't have any reaction. This was normal. He didn't expect a bit of psychological suggestion to be able to completely subdue the scheming Lu Tao. The various neurotransmitters on the material plane of the human body were encoded and encrypted. It was impossible for Luo Nan to see through all of Jack's thoughts with a glance and even affect his thoughts and emotions. Plus, his most capable wraith sign wasn't by his side. However, it wasn't difficult to see through the general emotional inclination of a target, especially when the target harbored malicious intent. Luo Nan didn't pay much attention to Lu Tao in the beginning. He could only blame his own guilty conscience. His series of actions were filled with awkwardness. Especially when the elevator doors closed for the first time. Lu Tao looked as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. Lu Tao certainly didn't know that Luo Nan didn't need his eyes to observe. Next, he just needed a bit of simple logic. Luo Nan thought about how Lu Tao perfectly avoided the limelight after his conflict with Huang Bingjin and how he promptly showed himself. Luo Nan could roughly guess that Lu Tao must have discovered Luo Nan when he was spying on Huang Bingjin. It didn't matter if Lu Tao was helping Huang Bingjin vent his anger or if Lu Tao had some other goal. Lu Tao definitely had bad intentions. Luo Nan naturally gave Lu Tao a bit of psychological suggestion in return. Under the overwhelming superiority of the mental plane, the consequences of this bit of psychological suggestion depended on Lu Tao's choice. Luo Nan walked in the opposite direction into the reception hall amidst the bustling stream of people and virtual images. He accurately found Mo Chio's position. It was just as Mo Chio said. He was waiting in front of the guide desk in the reception hall. But what was different from what Luo Nan had expected was that this third brother of his was all by himself. There was not a single person by his side. Even his target of friendship, Tian Si, was nowhere to be seen. Luo Nan squeezed through the stream of people and greeted, "Third brother, where are Mo Peng and the others?" Mo Chio didn't give a direct answer. He just forcefully put on a calm expression, "Nanster, you're here. Let's wait a bit longer. Mo Rui and Mo Han will be here soon." Luo Nan wasn't in the mood to beat around the bush. He directly said, "Did something happen to Mo Peng and the others? Did they offend someone and cause a conflict?" Luo Nan saw Mo Chio's stupefied expression as soon as he spoke. Luo Nan confirmed that he had hit the bull's eye. Mo Chio's first reaction was, "Mo Peng contacted you?" Luo Nan spread his hands, "I'm just guessing." At this moment, Luo Nan's mature behavior made Mo Chio overlook Luo Nan's age. He also forgot the so-called elder brother style that he had been trying to put on to comfort Luo Nan. Mo Chio unconsciously sighed. Actually, Mo Chio also felt quite wronged. He really didn't know the specifics of the situation. When it happened, he was chatting with Tian Si in Area C. By the time he received the news and rushed over, it was already too late. It seems like Mo Cheng's team was provoked when they were practicing. Both sides engaged in a virtual battle, and they fought for real. Players from both sides were forced to go offline due to excessive stimulation, and then it turned into a real fight. This wasn't a big deal. In competitive games, challenges and provocations were a part of the game. In the case of high degree of realism, it was common for hot-blooded young people to be unable to hold back their anger and turn virtual confrontations into real-life PK. Generally speaking, a large amusement park like Frost River Reality would always have corresponding control measures to prevent the situation from worsening. However, today was a strange day. When Mo Chio received the news and rushed over, the conflict suddenly intensified. Mo Tao, Mo Peng, and even Tian Chi, who were not part of the team and did not really fight before, were all involved. It truly became a group fight. The scene of intense loss of control was captured by the public security monitoring system of the public place. It automatically alerted the police. Now Frost River Reality could no longer suppress the situation. Police machinery arrived on the scene, and anti-riot guns were pointed at the group of young people who were high. They instantly fell to the ground. In a few short minutes, they were all carried into police cars. Right now, the police cars were parked outside. Even the police were alarmed. It really was a big scene that people always did. Huang Bingzhen's face first flashed in Luo Nan's mind, then Lu Tao's face. He felt that this method of borrowing force to fight force and easily extricate himself was more likely to be done by Lu Tao. Of course, this was just a guess. Mo Chio, on the other hand, had more ideas. He noticed that the people who provoked them looked like gangsters. He was afraid that there would be gangsters involved, so he first found a few of his companions who were scattered in the amusement park to ensure their safety. No matter what, this night was destined to be terrible. At this time, Mo Rui, Mo Han, and Qin Xiaolin hurried over. The three girls had gone to play the Uncanny Valley game together. They were not with the main group, so they were able to avoid the conflict. But Qin Xiaolin, who was not a man, was taken into a police car because she participated in the gang fight. Mo Chio saw Qin Xiaolin approach and felt a headache. He did not know how to explain and comfort her. In the end, Mo Chio could not avoid explaining the situation to the girls. But the girls' reactions were more or less outside of his expectations. The relatively quiet Mo Rui was fine, but Mo Han instantly jumped up. It must be that Huang Bingzhen. That guy doesn't look like a good person at first glance. He found someone to retaliate against us. The first thing she thought of was that rotten person. It could be seen that Huang Bingzhen's hugging action gave Mo Han a huge psychological shadow. Chen Xiaolin appeared to be even calmer. She did not panic over her sister being detained. Instead, she asked, "Have you determined who is responsible? We only know that the other side provoked us first." Mo Chiu was helpless when he said these words. "Which police station are you being taken to?" "This. Let me ask." Right now, Tian Si was in charge of the police station. When Mo Chiu made the call to understand the information, he suddenly felt very embarrassed. His performance in this matter seemed to have been crushed by this 16 or 17-year-old girl, Chen Xiaolin. Embarrassment was embarrassment, but it did not delay Mo Chiu from getting back the exact information. "It's the Fudong Sub-Bureau. They'll be taken care of nearby." Chen Xiaolin nodded and turned to Luo Nan. "Leicester's father works in the city police station. He's quite familiar with them." "Right," Shui Lei was rushing over right now. Luo Nan did not say anything. He just raised his hand toward Chen Xiaolin, indicating that the same matter did not need to be handled by two people. It was better to let these people who were more familiar with the police force communicate. However, Luo Nan shook his head in his mind when he saw Chen Xiaolin calmly mentioning Shui Lei. He did not believe that this exchange could redeem anything. Chen Xiaolin did not refuse. She walked to the side to talk to Shui Lei. Chapter 183. Lu Tao stood in front of the luxurious room in Area A, whose specifications were second only to the VIP floor. He hesitated for a moment before finally pushing the door open and entering. The room was dim. Practically all of the lights were off. The only place with a wall lamp was the resting area in the corner. There were two scantily clad women lying there in a daze. Their bodies were intertwined and they seemed to be asleep yet not asleep. Clearly, they had taken too many drugs. Seeing this scene, Lu Tao furrowed his brows. This idiot. Does he not want to mingle here anymore? Does he really think Yin Lu is some sort of madam who runs a place? Thinking about it again, Huang Bingjin not bringing the two women to the VIP area was still rational. Lu Tao tried to use this reason to convince himself. However, when he turned around and adapted to the dim light in the room, he was able to clearly distinguish the blurry silhouettes of the people in the operating area. He felt that he had gone blind. He should not have placed his hopes on this idiot. In the dim operating area, Huang Bingjin was wearing a tactical helmet. He waved his arms and his body staggered as he circled around the central area. Apart from that helmet, this bastard was completely naked. This guy is finished. Lu Tao had always believed that young masters like him, who were born with a golden spoon in their mouths, playing around with women and looking for fun was nothing. However, there had to be a limit. In this already preposterous and unbridled world, a guy who continued to pursue extreme stimulation was destined to not live long. For someone like Huang Bingjin, who indulged in alcohol, drugs, and women, he would reinvent every single one of them without restraint. Sooner or later, he would torment himself to death. In fact, he was more or less the same now. Ever since this guy joined some order in the Mystic Arts Research Society, he had forcefully found the meaning of eternity in his depraved and preposterous life. Normally, he was still fine. However, once he got involved in alcohol and drugs, the circuitry of his brain would completely move towards an inhuman realm. If it wasn't for the Huang family sponsorship of the Mystic Arts Research Society being extremely high, and if it wasn't for this fellow having an iron vote in the society, which was the crux of the bid for gear, Lu Tao wouldn't have gotten involved with this sort of person. Lu Tao was hesitating whether or not to greet this madman when Huang Bingjin let out an "ah" and knelt on the ground. First, he heavily kowtowed, then he let out a strange laugh. The laughter squeezed out from the helmet was stifling and irritating. What a pervert! Lu Tao was badly frightened by this blow, and his whole body jumped a small step back. This chapter is not finished. Please continue. This chapter is not finished. That guy knelt on the ground and turned his head to look over. The pitch-black helmet covered his face, making him look comical and eerie. Taozi, your ideas aren't very good. These guys are all very arrogant. Ah. Lu Tao didn't understand what it meant. But then, the operating area was illuminated by the light of a projector. The image displayed was the situation inside an escort police car. Lu Tao. And Tao's eyes, Lu was that Tao was to be in. These were all recorded by a certain gangster's camera, allowing Huang Bingjin to observe the entire process of the conflict. This method was learned from Li Xuecheng. However, Li Huang but he to Li, Tao's he Li's Ling Lu Tao thought of Luo Nan when he saw this situation. His mind was at a loss, but he answered carelessly, what you want is to separate them. Aren't these girls all alone now? What you do next is up to you. It has nothing to do with me. Though he said this, he was relieved to see that Huang Bingjin was not impatient to make a move and do something unbearable. Alone my ass. Their brother is like a shepherd dog. Hey, where are they? Huang Bingjin discovered that Lu Tao was the only one who came in. He was a bit dissatisfied. Lu Tao subconsciously rubbed his wristband. He laughed, they're all drunk. How can they come over? Who says we can't come over? The door behind him was slammed open. Hu Huaying and the others staggered in. She shouted, you two are sneaking around. What the hell are you doing? Fuck me. Lu Tao felt his entire body turn bad. The reason why he came over secretly behind Hu Huaying and the others was because he did not want the matter involving Luo Nan to be exposed. He wanted to give Lu Tao some room to maneuver. But this group of drunkards came in. How could he waver? Control the situation. Huang Bingjin suspiciously swept a glance at Lu Tao's face. He immediately became excited because of the sudden increase in the number of people in the room. He did not pursue the matter too much, it's good that you came. You bastards. You usually say that I'm researching those weird things. Now I'll let you experience what the true rulers of the future era are. Your bullshit things should have been swept into the trash a long time ago. Huang Bingjin completely ignored the hissing from Hu Huaying and the others. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. He had already entered a state of incoherent speech. He was dancing with joy, and over there. Those two over there, he was referring to the two drugged girls. The problem was that they were the ones who were truly drunk. How could they have any reaction? Huang Bingjin cursed and ran over by himself. Under the incredulous gazes of Lu Tao and the others, Huang Bingjin actually grabbed one girl with each arm and lifted the two girls over. He placed them on the left and right sides of the operating area. No way. Their combat strength is this strong after taking drugs? Lu Tao was truly stupefied. The two girls weighed 180 pounds each. They were also in a semi-conscious state. They simply didn't know how to cooperate, so they could only be heavier. But Huang Bingjin, this weak chicken, was actually able to forcefully grab one girl with each hand. If he had this kind of strength when he clashed with Luo Nan's group, how could he have been in such a difficult situation? At the same time, Lu Tao also noticed that Huang Bingjin was quite particular when he placed the two girls. He placed them in a diagonal position. He absolutely did not place them carelessly. Huang Bingjin's actions were so obvious that Hu Huaying and the other drunkards could see it. Someone laughed, oh ho. What's up? You want to play a ritual? How come I heard that a certain person can't even draw a complete magical spell even though he's been in the guild for so many years? Layman, shut your mouths. In this era, how stupid is it to play with that one stroke at a time? This is enough for me. Huang Bingjin waved his hand and erased the video from the police car. He then snapped his fingers and an enormous projection covered the operating area in an instant. Triangles, pentagrams, hexagrams, circles, and all sorts of mysterious and unfathomable symbols pieced together to form a three-dimensional diagram. It was like an enormous multi-layered cake, covering everyone within in an instant. Snow white, deep blue, dark green, dark gold, and all sorts of other colors were reflected in front of everyone's eyes. Lu Tao saw a gear-like diagram in front of him. It was pieced together and rotated, giving him an indescribable feeling. What are you playing at? The dusky room suddenly lit up with such an intense light. It was very dazzling to Hu Huaying's eyes. He blinked and squinted his drunken eyes. He was a bit at a loss. Playing? Fine. Let's just take it as playing. Let's play a little swap experiment to prepare for the future holy swap. Huang Bingzhen took off his helmet, revealing a face suffused with a dark red halo. This color even seeped into his pupils, mixing together with the surrounding blurry colors of light. It was mottled and bewitching. Lu Tao shivered when he saw this pair of eyes. This mottling was Luo Nan's style. Chapter 184. The instant of oppression caused Lu Tao's mind to go blank for a period of time. During this time, his fingertip, which had been pressed against his wristband, instinctively made a move. The wristband vibrated soundlessly, starting the recording function. When Lu Tao regained his senses, he already didn't want to change anything. At this time, he saw Huang Bingzhen circling around the magical projection array, moving in a crooked circle. He even reached out to touch those illusory lines and structures, as if caressing the tender skin of a beauty. His face was filled with intoxication. Look, this is the holy space. The others in the room were dumbfounded. They couldn't keep up with this madman's train of thought. Huang Bingzhen was proud of these people's performance, but at the same time, he felt a little disappointed. For this reason, he was willing to waste his breath to explain to these ignorant people. Do you know how it is built? Do you know what it is used for? Regardless of whether or not the others wanted to hear, Huang Bingzhen continued to dance. The holy space is a mysterious domain that realizes exchange. Here, you can give up one thing and use it to exchange for another thing of equal value. This way, you can exchange for what you need and obtain the most perfect, most exquisite balance in the universe. Thanks to the blessing of the technological era, we only need one thing to build such a wonderful domain. What is it? What is it? Huang Bingzhen's finger pointed at Hu Huaying, Lu Tao, and the others, not letting a single one go. But no one interacted with him. Everyone was still in a state of confusion. Incorrigible idiots, are you talking about magical arrays? Ah, wrong, it's seeds. Seeds. Huang Bingzhen himself could have fun, but Hu Huaying and the others felt like they were watching an absurd play. Moreover, they were forcefully pulled onto the stage, awkwardly participating in it. Huang Bingzhen didn't have the slightest awareness of this. We only need to obtain a seed, and we can use it as a foundation, using a fixed system mold, to germinate and build a holy space to carry the holy object. Where does the seed come from? Taoster, you must know. He was actually called out. Lu Tao really wanted to slap Huang Bingzhen's face to see if he could wake this guy up. But facing Huang Bingzhen's eyes, he really was a little scared. He could only force a smile. I couldn't guess it at first. Stupid, you've done a great service by plucking this seed. Huang Bingzhen was like a passionate conductor. With a wave of his arm, there was a shadow in front of him. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. It was clearly shown that the gangsters had deliberately provoked and triggered a group fight. His hands swept and clenched in the projection, as if he was grabbing something out of thin air. Then, he waved his fist at Lu Tao. Lu Tao could roughly guess what Huang Bingzhen meant. The so-called seed was obtained from the group fight just now. What the hell is this? Lu Tao had to admit that his brain was not enough. His brain must have been fried by the drug. What the hell are you guys doing? Even if Hu Huaying was a little drunk, he was starting to feel that something was wrong. He turned his gaze towards Lu Tao. In his opinion, Lu Tao, who had arrived earlier, was obviously easier to communicate with and should know more. Lu Tao hesitated for a moment. He still didn't want to explain too clearly. He only vaguely said, he just suffered a loss at the hands of a group of people. He's not happy in his heart. I don't know what he's thinking. He suffered a loss. If you've suffered a loss, then get it back. What are you doing here? Did you meet someone you can't afford to offend? This shouldn't be the case. At least in Huang Bingzhen's mind, he had no concept of Luo Nan, the bomb. Only the heavens knew that there were simple and direct methods. Why did he have to do this? Then again, if he was able to understand Huang Bingzhen's thoughts, then wouldn't he be a madman? Lu Tao spread his hands with a helpless expression. Unable to get an answer from him, Hu Huaying staggered forward to pull Huang Bingzhen's shoulder. Brother Huang, don't be so mysterious. If you have something to say, then say it. If you have something to say, then do it. Fuck. Hu Huaying moved closer with good intentions, but he was pushed away by Huang Bingzhen. How could he maintain his balance right now? He immediately sat on the ground, stunned on the spot. Hey, Huang Bingzhen. You're no fun like this. The other drunkard had a good relationship with Hu Huaying. He immediately wanted to stick up for Hu Huaying, but Huang Bingzhen's mottled demonic pupils turned to stare at his face in the next moment. Silence. Even though the experiment is small, it's still sacred. You were clearly the most noisy one just now. On the ground, Hu Huaying struggled to crawl up. He shouted, "This guy drank too much. Grab him. Wake him up." These people's family backgrounds were similar, but Frost River reality could barely be considered Hu Huaying's territory. He was the landlord, so they would listen to him. The drunkards immediately rubbed their fists and palms together. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. He saw an opportunity and charged forward with a howl. Lu Tao hesitated for a moment before following. Even though Huang Bingzhen's strength was extraordinarily great, there was a limit to it. He could not resist the combined strength of these people. His 5 limbs hung in the air, his 2 legs kicked wildly, and there was no place for him to exert his strength. His eyes were about to bleed. In the end, he had no other choice. He shouted with a hoarse voice, "Get the holy object! Get the holy object!" This group of people didn't care about the holy object. What mattered was making this kid sober up. Hu Huaying turned his head to look around. Do you have any inhibitors? This kid doesn't want to live. Huh? Hu Huaying's voice suddenly cut off. Lu Tao was the most sensitive, so he turned his head upon hearing the sound. Lu Tao saw the center of the so-called magic array. Marvelous black and white lines crisscrossed and weaved. They combined and constructed together, gradually forming a classical hanging scale that was half a person's height. The black and white plates were placed on one side. The frame in the center presented a smooth and contrasting arc. In the center, there was a sculpture that looked like a Western crown. It was unknown what flower it was made of. 8 sharp hollow leaves spread out in a ring shape, and there were 6 gems arranged in 2 rows at the center of the crown. The gems were of different colors, but the hue was rather dark. The design looked strange and gorgeous. At this moment, the black and white plates were placed on one side. Chains of the same color were divided into 3 strands that hung them up. They even swayed slightly as if they were real. I think I've heard of this before. Hu Huaying scratched his head. It's the scales of truth. Lu Tao vaguely knew a little about this so-called holy object. It was not only very influential within the Mystic Arts Research Society, but it was also circulated among the wealthy circles of Xia City. It was just that Lu Tao had no interest in this sort of mysterious thing. He had never seriously understood it. Now it seemed that he had underestimated it in the past. In any case, it had some ability to turn a normal person into a retard. Huang Bingzhen became even crazier when he saw the scales of truth appear. He struggled as he screamed, "The world is fair. The truth is just. The daily exchange of this round's Holy Oracle's item has been fulfilled. I request an exchange." Exchange. Calm down. Oh my God. One of the drunkards slapped Huang Bingjin's cheeks with all his might, but he was bitten by this fellow. The drunkard let out a blood-curdling scream and saw blood. Just as the drunkard was cursing out loud, his body inexplicably shook. He lowered his head to look and saw a sharp appendage protruding from his chest. It was hard to tell if it was real or illusory. Chapter 185. The order in the reception hall of Frost River Reality grew more and more chaotic. Many people were attracted by the arrival of the police. The effects of the brawl were fermenting. At this time, Frost River Reality was also having a headache. The person in charge was constantly negotiating with the police, hoping that the police would quickly take away all of the brawlers and put an end to the matter. However, the police still needed to conduct some on-site investigations, including Tian-Si. The petite girl had been trying to communicate with the police. The three parties restrained each other, and for a while, they were in a deadlock. Luo Nan and the others saw this scene when they walked out the door. Chen Xiaolin had just finished communicating with Xue Lei and walked over to his side. Her expression was a little strange. Leister contacted his father. It seems that his uncle is on duty tonight. He just received a mission and went out. He's here. Such a coincidence. Luo Nan was astonished. He also found it very strange. His father is a special police officer, right? He's involved in this sort of public security issue. It seems like after the explosion in the R&D district, it has been in a state of alert. All the security issues in the central city have been upgraded. On the side, Mo Chio had a strange feeling. It was good to be able to find a solution to the problem, but the current situation made him feel a little awkward. He noticed that Chen Xiaolin, this mellow and precocious girl, had been discussing matters with Luo Nan from beginning to end after proposing the solution. She had placed him, the person with the most experience and age, to the side. Was it because they were familiar with each other? Chen Xiaolin had no time to care about Mo Chio's fragile heart. Her last encounter at the Limestone Water Village pub left a serious shadow in her heart, but it also made her understand that Luo Nan's identity was absolutely not as simple as an ordinary high school freshman. Luo Nan had taken that intense and terrifying scene as a matter of course, let alone now. Naturally, she had to find the person who could handle it the most. As Chen Xiaolin spoke, she shifted her gaze and glanced at several burly SWAT officers wearing exoskeleton armors outside the door. However, all the SWAT officers were wearing fully enclosed tactical helmets, and there was no obvious police rank logo on their armor. For a moment, she could not tell which one was Xue Lei's father, or if he was still at the scene in Area A. Luo Nan didn't deliberately search for them. If they were willing to help, they would certainly contact them. Otherwise, what would be the point of finding them? He roughly observed the situation and walked in the direction of the police car to check on Mo Peng and the others. No matter how he looked at it, this group fight was a little strange. He wanted to understand it further. But when he was 7 or 8 steps away from the police car, he was stopped by a cold metal arm. The one who stopped him was a special police officer. He was nearly 2 meters tall, and he was looking down at him with a pitch-black visor. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. After that, he didn't give off a friendly vibe. The area ahead is controlled. Do not approach. The voice of the special police came from behind the helmet. Luo Nan did his best to put on a childish expression that matched his age. Officer, my brother is inside. I came with him, is that so? The SWAT officer who was blocking the road gestured behind him. Immediately, one of his comrades came over and asked, Captain. Captain. Luo Nan was stupefied for a moment, but the special police officer blocking the road had already instructed, give the hospital a heads up. Let that group of people first take a urine sample in preparation for a drug test. Their emotions are too agitated. It might be the effect of the drug. How did he make that connection? Luo Nan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was baffled, but soon his mind stirred. His mental senses cut into the visor to confirm. Almost at the same time, the SWAT officer took off his helmet, revealing a square, middle-aged man's face. "You're Luo Nan." "Officer Shui." Uncle." Though the tone was quite different, the certainty and judgment within were completely the same. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. The police officer in front of him was none other than Officer Shui, who had personally arrested Xie Junping last week due to the illegal drugs in his phantom flying car. That was the first time Luo Nan had been arrested. It was impossible to not have a deep impression of him. He still remembered this person's name. It was Shui Weiluan. The word Shui couldn't be written twice in a single stroke. Plus, the location and position all matched. Luo Nan was certain that this tall and sturdy police officer was Shui Lei's father. He was also the target of their assistance. So Xia City really was quite small. Luo Nan had a strong first impression. He was able to find many similarities between Officer Shui and Shui Lei when he looked at him again. This could be used as verification. However, the other impression of Officer Shui didn't seem to have any positive effects. Shui Weiluan furrowed his brows and stared at Luo Nan. His gaze was like looking at a criminal suspect who had escaped by a fluke. That day, Luo Nan was silent and taciturn after being controlled. His rigid and uncooperative appearance left a deep impression on Shui Weiluan. Now Luo Nan looked a bit more cheerful, but it was limited. "Leister said that you're a good friend of his. How long have you known each other?" Just last week, Luo Nan felt that it was very likely that he would be interrogated by this Officer Shui. This was to prevent Shui Lei from mistakenly making friends with criminals. His wristband vibrated just as he was having a headache. He immediately whispered an apology and looked at the message on his wristband to alleviate the awkward and tense situation. The message unexpectedly came from Lu Tao, but it wasn't an instant message. Instead, it was an audio file. What the hell is this fellow up to? This chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page. Luo Nan subconsciously opened the audio file and an extremely exaggerated voice immediately came out. "The holy space is a mysterious domain that can realize displacement." What followed was this voice's unceasing lecture. Magical spells, seeds, holy objects, and other special terms popped out one after another. Hu Huaying and Lu Tao's conversation was mixed in the middle. From this, Luo Nan could determine that this neurotic lecture came from Huang Bingzhen. Just as Luo Nan came to a conclusion, a commotion arose in the recording. After a series of chaos, an extremely sensitive term suddenly jumped out. "The scales of truth." Luo Nan was suddenly agitated. Then he heard the other side say things like, "the fairness of the world, the justice of truth." The answer was already clear. The order of justice. With such a high profile, the definition of a secret order was a bit unworthy of the name. And at this time, Luo Nan finally discovered that he had been listening to the recording for too long. Shui Weiluan didn't really care. On the contrary, he was listening very seriously, and openly. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed. Shui Weiluan wasn't an ability user. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have been allowed to hear this information. The next few seconds were all filled with Huang Bingzhen's crazed shouts of displacement. Displacement. Luo Nan wanted to transfer it to his internal headphones and play it. But at this time, a sharp voice that had changed its tone due to fear suppressed everything. "Spider. Spider." Luo Nan's thoughts had deviated a bit in an instant, but they were forcefully pulled back. The recording came to an abrupt end at this time. Luo Nan's expression turned very ugly. He immediately called Lu Tao, but no one picked up for a long time. Hu Huaying followed, and the same thing happened. Luo Nan couldn't stop while he was on the phone. He turned around and walked inside. Shui Weiluan's expression had changed a long time ago. He saw Luo Nan walk back and wanted to grab him, but his hand hesitated halfway. He didn't exert force and instead followed Luo Nan with large strides. "I've been pretending to be a dead dog for several days. The main reason is that I'm busy to death in class." The pace of updates is a complete mess. I don't have the face to say much. Now that I'm busy with the project, I don't really want to become a dead dog, so I'll make my stance clear. During the double monthly vote period, the atmosphere of the event wasn't lively due to my actions of pretending to be dead. Even though I have the strong support of many friends, it's true that I didn't fulfill my obligations. How about this? No matter what the monthly vote results are, I will first recognize the 50 chapters of the monthly vote and add chapters. In other words, even if I don't reach 5,000 monthly votes, I will guarantee the 50 chapters of the monthly vote. Starting tomorrow, I will guarantee 3 chapters every day. I will gradually adjust it to 4 chapters. Of course, if fellow readers are willing to break through the 5,000 vote mark, I will accept it. I'm currently losing weight. Thank you. Chapter 186. Luo Nan quickly passed through the reception hall and headed in the direction of the VIP elevator. On the way, he used the hexear to enter the special channel of the society regarding the human-faced arachnid and reported the situation. There were still many reports related to the human-faced arachnid in Xia City in the past week. But as one of the 4 psychics in Xia City, Luo Nan had special privileges within the society. He Yuan's call came in just as the report ended. Mr. Luo, I have already assigned people to rush over according to the location information you have shared. The nearest person can arrive in 5 minutes. Please stay put and avoid direct contact with the target as much as possible. I will arrive in around 30 minutes. I am confirming the level of the situation. Right now, it is still a guess and not an actual confirmation. Luo Nan had already learned a few specialized terms. He spoke one set after another. Your current physical condition is not suitable for this mission. Therefore, please ensure your own safety as your #1 priority. I understand. I have a senior special police officer by my side. Luo Nan had already entered the VIP elevator as he spoke. This time, he did not have Bai Xinyan's temporary privileges, but there were no problems. It seemed that Frost River reality had increased the level of his account. It seemed that Hu Huaying's reputation was quite useful here. She had thought things through quite thoroughly. Luo Nan did not want to see anything happen to Hu Huaying. Xue Weiluan silently followed him into the elevator. His identity as a police officer gave him the authority to freely enter and exit the police area. The two locked gazes in the enclosed elevator. They wanted to speak, but the elevator had already stopped at the VIP floor before they could speak. The elevator door opened and the first thing Luo Nan saw were the 2 guides with long hair and short hair. The 2 were baffled to see Luo Nan return. Mr. Luo? Did you forget to bring? The 2 guides quickly saw the tall and sturdy officer Xue behind Luo Nan. They immediately knew that something was wrong and were speechless for a time. Luo Nan did not care about what they were thinking. He said directly, "Is Senior Hu and the others still in that room?" The 2 guides looked at each other and responded with some hesitation, "Mr. Hu and his friends are already downstairs." Downstairs? I didn't see them. Luo Nan estimated that the incident happened at least 10 minutes ago. He was still at the guide desk in the lobby. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. However, that place wasn't far from the VIP elevator. With such a large group of drunkards passing by, he should have at least sensed it. They took another elevator that went straight to Area A. Area A? Luo Nan muttered to himself for a bit, then he said, "Where's Huang Bingzhen's room? Do you know this person? Mr. Huang?" From the looks of it, the guides knew who he was. Mr. Huang didn't come to the VIP area today. What about Area A? Area A also has private rooms, right? Can you help me check? The 2 guides had awkward expressions on their faces, especially when they saw the big guy behind Luo Nan. The 2 communicated for a bit, but they connected another call, asking Luo Nan to connect. "Hello, Mr. Luo, I'm Yin Luo." "Manager Yin?" Luo Nan didn't think that the 2 guides would directly invite her out, but this was within reason. Thinking about Ian Lee's special identity, he couldn't help but consider 2 more layers. Ian Lee's attitude was very calm. "I'm at Sky Capital Water Village right now. I don't understand the situation over there. Could Mr. Luo explain it to me?" Luo Nan was speechless for a time. Was he going to say, "I discovered traces of the Order of Justice and the human-faced arachnid in your territory, and your Blood Flame Order needs to cooperate and find them"? The Blood Flame Order and the Order of Justice looked different, but Luo Nan had observed the Blood Flame Order from the perspective of the Wraith sign for a week. He couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. Ian Lu didn't receive an immediate response from him, but she wasn't impatient. She spoke in a leisurely manner. "If Mr. Luo has any urgent questions, our store has a professional team that specializes in dealing with troublesome matters. Mr. Luo can inform us of the relevant situation. I believe that we will be able to deal with it appropriately." Luo Nan knew that Ian Lu wanted to deal with him. Right when he was pondering how to speak, Officer Shui pressed down on his arm and inserted himself into the call. "Hello, Manager Ian. I'm Captain Shui Weiluan of the Special Police Brigade directly under the Xia City Police Department. My police number and relevant proof can be sent to you via the internet. Our department is currently dealing with a vicious conflict that occurred in your territory. We suspect that this incident is related to the guest with the surname Huang. We hope that you can cooperate with the police and open up the relevant authority to facilitate the police's emergency response. Thank you for your cooperation." It was rare for Shui Weiluan to speak such a long sentence in a single breath. The unyielding will within his words was clear and discernible. "This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page." Shui Weiluan was clearly silent for a moment before he responded, "We fully support the work of the police." The call was then hung up. Luo Nan understood that he had thoroughly offended Ian Lu this time. However, he approved of Shui Weiluan's swift and decisive approach. The two didn't delay any longer. They followed the instructions of the 2 guides and took a direct elevator to enter Area A, where the luxury room was located. Under Shui Weiluan's orders, the police had already taken over the surveillance system of Frost River Reality in a short minute. They quickly locked onto their target. By the time Luo Nan and Shui Weiluan arrived outside the luxury room, there were already 5 or 6 special police officers in place. They separated the surrounding guests who were watching the show, accumulating power and waiting to take action. They could break down the door at any time. Luo Nan cursed to himself when he saw this situation. If it really was a situation related to the human-faced arachnid, then these special police officers, who were just a bit stronger than ordinary people, wearing exoskeleton armors, wouldn't be of any use. Especially Shui Weiluan. How could Luo Nan watch as Shui Lei's father faced danger in front of him? Luo Nan's body unconsciously squeezed forward, but he was stopped by Shui Weiluan. Then a special police officer forcefully pressed Luo Nan outside the control line. As Luo Nan struggled, he saw the special police officer in front of him make a few unintelligible gestures to Shui Weiluan. Shui Weiluan immediately gave the order to break through. In the next moment, the door to the luxury room was pushed open and several special police officers poured in. Luo Nan glared at the special police officer behind him. While the officer was stunned, Luo Nan broke free from the restraint and entered the room. Shui Weiluan frowned when he saw Luo Nan rush in. He didn't say anything about Luo Nan's actions. He just asked, "Take a look. Are they all here?" Actually, Luo Nan didn't need to look. He had already used his mental senses to scan the situation inside the room when he was outside. He had an idea of what was going on. Hu Huaying, Lu Tao, Huang Bingzhen, 3 other drunkards, and the 2 women he didn't expect to see. He nodded. He didn't say anything definite. "Everyone I know is here." Luo Nan's mental senses continued to search endlessly as he spoke. However, he couldn't find anything else in this pitch-black room. The most crucial human-faced arachnid was gone. The holy space and the scales of truth were all gone. There were only 8 people in deep comas. Chapter 187. Shui Weiluan signaled his underlings to turn on the lights. His eyebrows furrowed when he heard Luo Nan respond so quickly. You can see. Only now did Luo Nan discover that he was used to the convenience of mental clairvoyance. He had been too quick with his words. He had actually answered Shui Weiluan's question with the lights in the operating area completely out. It must be known that these special police officers were all equipped with tactical helmets with night vision capabilities. Luo Nan had no equipment on him at all. My eyesight is pretty good, cough cough. Luo Nan's face was slightly hot. He just so happened to feel the urge to cough, so he took the opportunity to forcefully thicken his skin and forcefully evade this question. But this also gave him a few hints. Uncle Shui, the operating area's lights were turned off. There's a high chance that the projector was turned on. Did you see it when you came in? No. Shui Weiluan gave a simple response, but he felt that it was rather absurd. This 15 or 16-year-old kid was acting far too calm. He was simply pouring baskets of groundless suspicion onto his own head. But this kid didn't look stupid. This veteran special police officer, who was over 50 years old, couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. Youngsters these days are much more capable than we were back in the day. His words contained a bit of a warning. In the end, he couldn't avoid his own son. Plus, Luo Nan's behavior from the beginning until now didn't arouse any ill will from him. At the very least, Luo Nan wasn't a hopeless wastrel. Luo Nan didn't pay attention to Shui Weiluan's good intentions. His mental senses covered the entire luxurious room, constantly gathering information. Of course, he also paid attention to Hu Huaying and the other unconscious people. First, he confirmed that their lives weren't in danger. However, their current state was indeed quite odd. Under the illumination of the lights that had just been turned on, 2 women could be seen in disheveled clothing among the 8 people. But they were quite far away, practically at the edge of the operating area. In the center, 6 big men were squeezed together. Huang Bingjin was completely naked from head to toe. Hu Huaying, Lu Tao, and the others were currently surrounding him in the middle. Their arms and legs were still entangled with each other. Combined with the recording, one could roughly guess that Hu Huaying and the others had Huang Bingjin, who had overdosed on drugs, under control at the time of the incident. But because of a sudden incident, everyone collapsed in a short amount of time. Most of them had more or less expressions of fear on their faces. They didn't stop even though they were unconscious. It was as if they had fallen into a nightmare. The only exception was Huang Bingjin. This guy. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. His face was buried in the crowd. Others couldn't see him clearly, but he couldn't hide from Luo Nan, who relied on his mental senses. It could be seen that Huang Bingjin's expression was very relaxed, as if he was sleeping normally. Was this a symptom of taking too much drugs? Luo Nan increased the precision of his mental senses appropriately. He observed the breathing, the pulse, the twitching of the eyelids, and other external indicators. He had some faint guesses in his mind, but he wasn't 100% certain. He had to go forward and take a closer look. Officer Shui stretched out his arm to stop him. Don't destroy the scene. Wait for the investigators. Luo Nan tried to play dumb. Uncle Shui, aren't you guys the same? We are the special police, we only care about the operation. Oh, but are they all right? I've already called an ambulance. I'll also do a drug test. Luo Nan was a bit helpless. It looked like this Uncle Shui had equated him with psychotropic drugs. He couldn't blame Uncle Shui for thinking this way. Not to mention Huang Bingjin, who was buried in the crowd, the 2 scantily clad girls clearly showed signs of taking too much drugs. Then again, the appearance of the 2 girls made Luo Nan even more certain of his previous judgment. This was the natural reaction of taking too much drugs. Huang Bingjin was like this. There was a problem no matter how he looked at it, and it was a very familiar problem. A shallow and serene coma. Luo Nan was the one who encountered this problem last time. Luo Nan muttered to himself for a moment, then he suddenly complained to Shui Weiluan. Uncle, this is the person in the middle. He had a conflict with us over an hour ago. Wait for the people from the public security department to come before you say that. Shui Weiluan grunted, but then he asked a question, aren't they your friends? There's only one that counts as a friend, Luo Nan pointed at Hu Huaying's position. Then he tilted his finger and pointed at the middle position. As for this person, Huang Bingzhen, young Master Huang, he's out of my league. Shui Weiluan's brows furrowed behind his helmet. Was it an illusion? He felt that there was a subtle change in Luo Nan's way of speaking, but he was unable to discern the specifics. Huang Bingzhen. That's right. Huang Bingzhen. He's the famous second-generation rich kid of our school. He's a good-for-nothing rotten person. Shui Weiluan shook his head. It's useless for you to say these words to me. I know. I wasn't saying it to you in the first place. Luo Nan narrowed his eyes slightly. The two words, Huang Bingzhen, that came out of his mouth were fine on the material plane. The sound waves did not travel more than a few meters in the air before they began to dissipate. But, this chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page. However, the corresponding information was under Luo Nan's intentional control. It was urged by his soul strength to rapidly spread out on the mental plane. In the blink of an eye, it exceeded the range of his senses. He had learned this technique from Mo Luan of the Blood Flame Order a few days ago. Mo Luan had used this method to summon the human-faced arachnid from a long distance. In terms of subtlety and concealment, Mo Luan was 100 times stronger than the current Luo Nan. But at this very moment, Luo Nan did not know what concealment was. He wanted this sort of diffuse effect. Now he just needed to see how the response was. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds, his ears suddenly trembled slightly. A sharp and unfriendly voice cut in, "What the hell are you yelling for? You're bragging that you're a mentally enhanced? Right now half of Xia City can hear you." The voice was familiar, but it wasn't particularly familiar. Luo Nan was stunned for a moment before realizing that the other party was speaking through the Hexaear's psychic wave network. Luo Nan's mind shifted a bit and he saw an encrypted channel specially set up for this operation. A cat's eye avatar had just lit up, announcing his arrival. Luo Nan finally matched his memories. Due to some reason, he had some inexplicable and bizarre thoughts. He only responded after 2 seconds had passed, cat's eye. Luo Nan's mind suddenly stirred before his voice fell. There was a clear and powerful reaction. It charged into the range of his senses in an extremely crude manner. How far could a distance of 10 meters be? In the blink of an eye, an incorporeal shadow seeped in from the other side of the room's wall. Luo Nan was facing Shui Weiluan directly at this time. He looked away from the angle of his line of sight, but under the clairvoyance of his mental senses, he was able to see what was happening over there as clearly as if he was seeing it with his own eyes. Even though the changes occurred on the mental plane, which was hard for ordinary people to see with their eyes, the incorporeal shadow had yet to completely penetrate through, but the 6 heterochromatic pupils and the ugly mandibles had already joined together to form the image of a malevolent spider. Then there were the 4 pairs of arthropod legs that waved about endlessly. They waved about a bit excessively and occasionally fought with themselves. They stirred up minute fluctuations on the mental plane that made people feel uneasy. However, the abdomen that should have been round and plump had turned into a flat human chest and abdomen structure. The outline of a human's legs and feet was still visible behind it, but most of it was trapped within the dark mist of chaos. It looked warped and deformed. This sort of image was like that of an enormous spider. Half of its body had merged into the back of a human. Its heavy weight had crushed the human spine, turning an ordinary person into a crooked and mutated monster. Human-faced arachnid. At least that was what it looked like on the surface. Chapter 188. Luo Nan's heart thumped twice as he watched the human-faced arachnid charge in. He was truly a bit flabbergasted. He had used his soul power to greet Huang Bingzhen, but what he wanted to summon was only Huang Bingzhen, whose soul seemed to have left his body. After all, the current Huang Bingzhen was almost exactly the same as when he was in a light coma, but his soul had actually left his body. He guessed that Huang Bingzhen had obtained the power to leave his body through special means such as the Order of Justice's holy space or holy substitution. From Luo Nan's experience, this was the first time he left his body. If he didn't have any external driving force, he would need to carefully ponder over how to move. This fellow shouldn't be able to run far. Through today's conflict with Huang Bingzhen, and with reference to Lu Tao's recording, this person's personality was already relatively clear. Phrases such as, fierce on the outside but weak on the inside, bullying the weak and fearing the strong, getting carried away, and so on were simply designed for this person. Perhaps this person had seen the arrival of the city police department's special forces and was still not used to the invisibility of the soul, so he was so scared that he hid. However, it must be known that Frost River reality was densely packed with people. As long as Huang Bingzhen was not an idiot, he would certainly be able to quickly discover the wonders of the out-of-body state. His self-confidence should have swelled. At this time, through some provocation, it was quite possible to lure this guy back. The course of events was very similar to Luo Nan's reasoning, but the degree of danger was on a completely different order of magnitude. Luo Nan entered the highest state of alert in an instant. He followed the principles set by the society and tossed out the words, "The human-faced arachnid has appeared. Draw close to me, into the encrypted channel." He couldn't care less about the pressure his soul strength exerted on his body. The heavily chained crow swung out and coiled around his body, preparing for a fierce battle. "What's wrong?" Xue Weiluan asked. The human-faced arachnid and the heavily chained crow were existences on the mental plane. Xue Weiluan was unable to see them. However, Luo Nan's suddenly tense body language could not be hidden from him. Luo Nan turned his head at this time to face the empty right wall. His expression was grim, as if a storm was brewing. Luo Nan was reminded by Xue Weiluan. He thought of the special forces in the room and cursed to himself, "Oh no." He didn't care about arousing suspicion. He raised his voice and shouted, "There's something wrong with the room. Get out." As he spoke, Luo Nan ignored the enormous difference in their sizes. He forcefully reached out to grab Xue Weiluan's arm, which was wrapped in metal armor. He wanted to pull Xue Weiluan outside. But, if this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. It didn't budge at all. Whether it was Xue Weiluan or his subordinates, they were all confused by Luo Nan's crazy reaction. They didn't react in the first instance. And at this time, the human-faced arachnid that had completely penetrated through the wall was already within reach. Sure enough, this fellow had made Luo Nan his #1 target. Its 6 corporeal eyes locked onto Luo Nan's position. It was like a raging bull as it charged over. Its 8 legs looked as sharp as blades as they streaked through the air, slicing at Luo Nan's face. What? Practically all of Luo Nan's energy was focused on defending against the siege hammer that could strike at any time when he faced the human-faced arachnid. He actually forgot to move when facing this attack that completely exceeded his imagination. Idiot! A figure that was as robust as a female leopard forced its way through the entrance of the private room. She pierced in between 2 majestic special police officers. Her speed increased once more, and she leaped several meters in a single leap. She actually forcefully knocked Luo Nan flying in the moment of imminent peril, narrowly avoiding the sharp edge of the long limbs. However, Luo Nan's eyes were about to split open when he was thrown away. This was because his mental senses had captured everything clearly. The sharp long limbs didn't cut through Luo Nan. Instead, they took advantage of the situation and pierced through Xue Weiluan's chest. They cut through the bottom of the tactical helmet and came out from the top of the right side of Xue Weiluan's skull. Luo Nan fell to the ground at this time. His entire spine was numb from the collision. He slid back 2 to 3 meters and only stopped when he reached the edge of the operating area. He nearly lost his breath, but he climbed up with all his might. "Uncle Xue." "Huh. Whether it was the naked eye or the clairvoyance of his mental senses, Shui Weiluan was still standing there perfectly fine. His helmet's visor was facing Luo Nan's position. He looked a bit stiff, but this was because of the absurd scene before his eyes. Nothing had happened to Shui Weiluan himself. As for the human-faced arachnid that had executed the raging bull charge and the blade cleave, it was unable to stop in time. It charged straight to the edge of the room before turning its body around. It looked at the results of its own battle, looking a bit stupefied. Luo Nan sat on the ground and blinked his eyes. His mind was a bit stupefied for a time. Cat Eyes wore baggy camouflage pants and a flat-brimmed hat on her head not too far away from him. She looked like she had just come down from a street dance. She did a graceful roll and stood up. But she was stupefied for a time when faced with the current situation. You guys, it was as if Shui Weiluan was watching an absurd play. But in that instant, the female street dancer before his eyes appeared. This chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page. He absolutely didn't dare to treat her lightly due to her astonishing skills. Most of the special police officers inside and outside the room came back to their senses at this time. They pulled out their guns one after another and pointed at the female street dancer who had suddenly barged in. Some even pointed at Luo Nan. This was the only threat they could feel. Put your guns away. Shui Weiluan gave the order and then asked, Luo Nan, what the hell are you guys doing? Luo Nan didn't know how to explain for a time. His gaze shifted to the edge of the room where the human-faced arachnid was. His mental senses firmly locked onto the adversary. After a few probing attempts, he couldn't help but scratch his head. Looking at the aggressive appearance of the human-faced arachnid, Luo Nan practically believed that it was a tall and long human-faced arachnid. It had already materialized from incorporeal, cut into the material plane, and wanted to behead him directly. But reality proved that this wasn't the case. The power level of this human-faced arachnid was actually quite ordinary. It couldn't even compare to the burning wraith that Luo Nan had first encountered on the warship. Then in the end, just how stupid would it be to abandon its most advantageous ability and attempt to use its incorporeal form to break through the material plane and use physical attacks to solve its problems? In reality, this fellow had always been trying to interfere with the material plane from the mental plane up until now. It was like an inflated balloon that was forcefully pressed down into the water. Other than making it more eye-catching, this way of doing things had no other effect. Luo Nan finally understood why the image of this human-faced arachnid was so clear. This fellow had placed the majority of its power in this fellow had placed most of its power on the mental interfering with the material plane. The closer the human-faced arachnid was to the material plane, the higher the probability of it being sensed by others. Cat Eyes had been unable to see the human-faced arachnid during their last operation, but when she performed the rescue just now, her judgment of its position and timing proved that she could already do it. This change had nothing to do with whether or not her abilities had improved. It was only related to the difference in her goals. The human-faced arachnid before her was clearly different from its own kind. The lighting in the room suddenly brightened right as Luo Nan was thinking. The projector in the operating area activated automatically without anyone controlling it. It projected a multicolored wave of light into this area. Chapter 189. There seemed to be some problems with the projector. The light it projected did not display a concrete image. Instead, it was like a mottled haze of light that covered the operating area. It also enveloped Luo Nan, Cat Eyes, Shui Weiluan, and 6 other people, as well as the 8 unconscious bodies. The sudden change in lighting attracted everyone's gazes. But the one who made the most intense reaction was the stupid crying human-faced arachnid. As soon as the light rays interweaved, it charged forward again. This time, it didn't target anyone but directly charged into the spreading light fog. Then, it hid itself in the colorful light. There was no doubt that this projected haze was a cover for the human-faced arachnid. Cat Eyes softly cried out, "Oh no! To an ability user like her who lived off of perception, locking onto a target was the greatest source of security. She had been extremely stifled during the human-faced arachnid hunting operation last time. Now that she had made progress with great difficulty, how could she have imagined that all her previous efforts would go to waste? But in the end, Cat Eyes was an awakened with rich experience. Her train of thought changed, and her gaze fell upon the projector that created the mottled fog. Taking drastic measures was a good choice. All of you, back out. What's going on with the system? Xue Weiluan spoke loudly. The first part of his speech was directed at the other people in the room, telling them to leave the projection area. The second part of his speech was directed at the technicians who were monitoring the operation of the room's system. He did not like this change. It made him feel that the situation was not completely under the control of the police. Cat Eyes was just about to make her move when she heard Xue Weiluan's order. She snorted and said, "Idiot." Luo Nan coughed as he crawled up. He wanted to defend Xue Weiluan. He doesn't know. I said you are an idiot. Luo Nan was simply baffled. Did I provoke you? However, on second thought, it was possible. It must be known that this person had left an image in the format pyramid. Even those on the student level could not be considered true believers. For instance, Xie Junping was very ignorant, but Cat Eyes was an ability user. Perhaps she had some instinctive reaction and rejection. Luo Nan looked through Cat Eyes once more. Under the multicolored rays of light, the flirtatious dancer in his impression was dressed in street dance fashion. She wore a hat askew. She looked quite a bit younger than her overly mature appearance from that night. She looked a bit more handsome. If it wasn't for Hexier's advance confirmation, he wouldn't have dared to greet him if they passed each other on the street. But during the operation, if this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Some words were better said openly. How am I stupid? Cat Eyes responded with a sneer when faced with Luo Nan's straightforward attitude. Mr. Psychic, where do you have the authority to command this operation? Where is the ability to act? Was it fun to pretend to be an innocent citizen here? You're just going to bring in a bunch of burdens and then hand over the leadership to someone else. Fighting each other. Her words hit the nail on the head. Luo Nan was left speechless. In fact, this was one of the major taboos that He Yueyin had pointed out during the last operation. He was doing the same now, maybe even worse. Those who had participated in the previous operation had at least known the target. But now, Xue Weiluan and the special forces were still in the dark. Do you even have the slightest awareness of being an ability user? At the very least, a sense of superiority is fine. Cat Eyes wasn't admonishing him. Rather, she was ridiculing him. However, the effect was more or less the same. Luo Nan spread his hands, not knowing how to respond for a time. You two, what are you still doing inside? Xue Weiluan walked over with large strides. He was very dissatisfied with the two people whispering to each other within the mist of light. Of course, he was puzzled by the inconsistency of logic. He took out the most straightforward and efficient attitude towards this. I don't care what path you two have. You two must cooperate when facing the police. Luo Nan, explain to me. What kind of monkey show were you playing just now? This sort of attitude was like that of an organ of authority, but it also had the style of an elder. It had to be said that the effect was extremely good for a young man like Luo Nan. If he had been the only one here, his brain would have exploded just trying to think of words to say. Fortunately, he had Cat Eyes with him. Luo Nan pushed the woman to the side out without hesitation. It's time to display the superiority of an ability user. Cat Eyes didn't refuse. At least this old man is much smarter than you. The two left the range of the mist of light at the same time. Then Cat Eyes took the initiative to meet Xue Weiluan and start negotiating. Luo Nan didn't care about the results of the negotiation. He thought that Cat Eyes, a veteran ability user, shouldn't be unable to resolve the issue. Right now, all of his energy was placed in the area covered by the projection mist of light. When all was said and done, technical work suited him better. Cat Eyes viewed this area covered by the mist of light as the most dangerous area. This was because she didn't know where the invisible human-faced arachnid would suddenly appear from. However, Luo Nan's view was different. Ever since the appearance of the human-faced arachnid, Luo Nan had always been on guard. Please turn the page if this chapter is not finished. Luo Nan locked onto its position. It didn't matter if it was inside or outside the mist of light. There was no difference. If there was a difference, it was probably that it was clearer. The projection mist of light obscured the line of sight in the eyes of others, but it presented itself in a completely different way on Luo Nan's side. Chaos and ripples could only be said to be a lack of understanding towards the fundamental operation of energy and information. The projection mist possessed a specific form of light. Of course, it also belonged to the category of energy and information. Moreover, it was an extremely intuitive kind. Because of this, Luo Nan's mental senses allowed him to see the structure and layout inside. It was as if he was looking at the lines on his palm. Even the finest hair could be seen clearly. It's another Tower of Babel-type structure. It's more precise than the tactical helmet's chipset, but it's still quite a distance away from the perfect layout of the dynamo core. Luo Nan used a picky attitude to make a judgment towards the structure level of the projection mist. It could be said that Luo Nan's entire body relaxed when the projection mist of light enveloped him. If this wasn't the case, how would he have the leisure to discuss the topic of idiots with cat eyes? The problem was that the party that created the projection couldn't see Luo Nan's thoughts. They had released such a structure for a special and crucial purpose. Luo Nan could see it clearly. When the human-faced arachnid crashed into it, the structure of energy and information of the two were like gears meshing together. A vehicle entered the rails, realizing an extremely perfect fit. It followed the mold of the projection mist and began to correct the deviation. The human-faced arachnid's structural information, which had been a bit chaotic before, was affected by this and unexpectedly became clear. Luo Nan could see that the direction of the operation of energy and information was rapidly pulling apart from the material plane. The human-faced arachnid's foolish action of interfering with the material plane was forcefully straightened. Why forcefully? This was because there was a component within the structure of energy and information that was extremely compatible with each other. This component continued to radiate information that was incompatible with each other. It was like a smooth-running production line. There was a noise that came and went. It was ear-piercing and awkward no matter how one looked at it. Could it be that this was the legendary defective product? Luo Nan gradually increased the precision of his senses. In the end, he was able to confirm that this defective component came from the interior of the human-faced arachnid. It came from a functional area that appeared to be rather important. The interior. Suddenly, Luo Nan grasped the crux of the situation, the interior of the human-faced arachnid. Was the other party amusing him? Chapter 190. From Luo Nan's perspective, the human-faced arachnid was chaos. It was a riddle. 10 days ago, Luo Nan's dynamo core had begun to analyze the human-faced arachnid with its special function. But even though he repeatedly made breakthroughs and made many references, his progress in analyzing the human-faced arachnid had not broken past 7%. Even so, there were probably only a few people in the current Xia city who understood the human-faced arachnid more than Luo Nan. Even with Luo Nan's understanding of the human-faced arachnid, it was hard for him to have a clue as to the internal structure of its core. The closest they ever came was when the Blood Flame Order's human-faced arachnid and the Wraith Sign devoured each other. At the time, Luo Nan believed that he had seen the marvels of the internal structure of the human-faced arachnid. But it was later proven that it was nothing more than a mold that the Blood Flame Order's Blood Soul Temple had projected into the human-faced arachnid. It was a preparation for the Order's sacrificial artifact. Therefore, Luo Nan's understanding of the internal structure of the human-faced arachnid was still in a guessing stage. He would occasionally have a clue, but looking at the overall situation, he was still shrouded in fog. Right now, if the other party, which was probably the Order of Justice, was really able to take out the internal structure of the human-faced arachnid and exhaust the laws and principles of how its energy and information operated and changed, Luo Nan would have to admit that he was convinced, no matter what his stance was. However, what Luo Nan saw right now was not the case. The human-faced arachnid revealed a deep structure within the energy and information operating structure of the projected glowing mist. It appeared to be precise and complex. If the human-faced arachnid were to follow this structure, then the siege hammer that the human-faced arachnid often used, the method of stimulating and devouring negative emotions, and so on could all be used. But if one were to really look into it, there were too many specious areas. The legal theory was appropriate, but there was no surprise and it was too shallow. From Luo Nan's perspective, the most powerful aspect of the human-faced arachnid was none other than its tyrannical instincts that lacked intelligence. He could completely rely on his instincts to produce an astonishingly accurate reaction. Such instincts should be built on a solid and complete foundation. Just like an intelligent system, with a large enough database, as long as the corresponding fuzzy conditions were given, it would be able to make an effective judgment. The human-faced arachnid in front of him was far too lacking in resources. At the end of the day, it was just a piled-up object, deduced from some superficial laws. It was a lifelike simulation model. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. But God was not. After such a long time, I've only built a model, or rather, an exoskeleton armor, on the mental level. In such a case, I can't say that I have any powerful instincts, and my judgment will definitely be wrong. Luo Nan dissected it layer by layer. He completely uncovered the foundation of this human-faced arachnid. In the end, he was able to confirm that the so-called flawed component played a role in the entire structure. Since it's an exoskeleton armor, it still needs to be controlled by a person. The problem is, to choose such an idiot who has not adapted to the spiritual world at all and can't be corrected in a short time. Isn't it terrible? He looked at the naked Huang Bingjin in the crowd and wanted to laugh. The facts were now very clear. Huang Bingjin had indeed gone into an out-of-body state, and the way he did it was to put on the human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor. Alright, this could be considered a good invention. At least it could allow people like Huang Bingjin to experience extraordinary power for themselves. Oh, wait. A certain thought streaked through his mind at this time, twisting Luo Nan's train of thought into a different direction. No matter how bad this structure is, it still possesses the ability to shuttle back and forth on the mental plane. And as long as there are the corresponding materials and methods, it can certainly be mass-produced. For someone like Huang Bingjin, just being able to obtain a 10,000th of the human-faced arachnid's power is enough for him to come and go as he pleases. For an ordinary person who lacks extraordinary power and talent, this is an enormous temptation. Luo Nan looked at the human-faced arachnid model once more as his thoughts reached this point. He looked at the flawed component that contained Huang Bingjin's soul. The expression in his eyes suddenly changed. Could this be the secret of the secret order's divine manifestation? Many thoughts spun in his mind in succession. Luo Nan was a bit spellbound. And at this time, a group of people entered through the entrance of the luxurious room. They were all wearing police uniforms, but they weren't equipped with exoskeleton armor. Luo Nan's eyebrows involuntarily furrowed when he saw this group of people rush in. He swept a glance through the peephole. That person's negotiations didn't seem to have any effect. Right now, a human-faced arachnid was being corrected in this room. This matter involved the ability user society, the secret order, and a series of extraordinary powers. It was fine if this group of people came late, but weren't they just causing trouble by coming in now? The leader of the group of police officers had a medium build and a lean physique. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. He shouted as soon as he entered. Old Shui, not only can your special police force solve cases, you can also find cases. You're quite capable. It looked like they came with bad intentions, but Shui Weiluan really couldn't say anything. This was because these people were the public security police who should appear at the scene of a case. Their special police force's actions just now were indeed suspicious of exceeding their authority. Moreover, the person who came was the chief of the East Prefecture Sub-Bureau. Frost River reality was under his jurisdiction. He could only be more cautious about this matter. Guoju, the matter just now was sudden. I just reported it to you at the last minute. Please don't blame me. Xue Weiluan would certainly give him face. But right now, he needed to take care of the most important problem first. His gaze cut to Cat Eyes, who had just finished negotiating. He swept his gaze over Luo Nan's face with complicated thoughts. He finally made up his mind. Guoju, there's something I need to say. We suspect that there's a Darksider life form roaming around here. Darksider life form? I know. Someone has already reported it. Guoju's attitude was very calm. His feelings towards Darksider life forms were no different from the usual thieves, gangs, and so on. He used his chin to point at the glowing mist in the projection area. This isn't within the scope of our responsibilities. The military will soon come and take over. They are the professionals. Professional problems should be solved by professionals. Xue Weiluan approved of this method. The problem was that there were professionals by his side. Cat Eyes' attire did not give people much confidence. But the strength she had displayed before and the relevant means of communication had already formed a credible chain. Guoju, I just confirmed with headquarters, I also confirmed it. That's why I'm here to clear the area first. Guoju waved his hand and an electronic voice sounded from outside the door. Frost River Reality's self-made multi-purpose robots were like diligent worker bees. They drove into the luxurious room one after another. They followed the preset program and locked onto the familiar figures in the projection mist. The order I received was to first ensure that the innocent masses are not affected. Those who need to be sent to the hospital should be sent there. This is to avoid long nights and dreams. Even if there aren't any symptoms, they will still get sick. Oh right, old Xue, you can withdraw now. The night has been tough enough. Everyone, don't wait. I'll update tomorrow morning. Chapter 191. Xue Weiluan watched as the multi-purpose robots unfurled stretchers and entered the scene one after another. Behind the visor, Xue Weiluan narrowed his eyes. What should we do with the scene? The technicians have already taken photos and recorded them. Moreover, the mutants have responded to the third level, the Darksider life form is lurking, and the military is about to enter the scene. Where would we have the space to investigate this case? Has the ambulance arrived yet? All of them are to be transported out. Unrelated personnel, please leave. Guoju replied with a few simple sentences before giving out an order. Immediately, the multi-purpose robot drove into the operating area and moved the unconscious body. Among them, 2 were in charge of tidying up the scene. They separated the stacked bodies and moved them onto stretchers. The rest of them were in an assembly line, sending the unconscious Hu Huaying and the others away one after another. Several special police officers looked at Xue Weiluan. Xue Weiluan indicated for his subordinates to leave the room first. No matter what was said, if it really was a Darksider life form hiding, then these special police officers wouldn't be of much use. Xue Weiluan hadn't moved, so Guoju had directly cleared the area. Logically speaking, it made sense. However, the timing was very delicate, and the way he did it was too suspicious. The so-called clearing of the area meant that other than moving the unconscious bodies away, everyone else present was also on the list. The special forces retreated from the room, leaving only Luo Nan and Cat Eyes. Neither of them moved. Luo Nan was a bit distracted at first, but Guoju and the robots entered the scene one after another. The projected glowing mist changed accordingly, drawing Luo Nan over once more. He stared at the projected glowing mist with a focused expression. Cat Eyes, on the other hand, swept her gaze over the suddenly lively situation in the room with great interest. No matter who it was, they didn't take Guoju's appearance to heart. Then, according to Guoju's request, the police appeared beside them and asked them to leave. Luo Nan's observation was interrupted once more. He was a bit displeased. He cast his gaze towards Cat Eyes, meaning, "This is the result of your negotiation." Cat Eyes raised her middle finger at him. "Your nature has changed a long time ago, okay? You've seen the society's recent announcements. Right now, the problem with the human-faced arachnid is no longer hunting darksider life forms. Instead, it's fighting against certain orders. Oh, stay away a bit." She casually pushed aside the innocent and ignorant police officer beside her and walked over to Luo Nan. On this side, the police officer responsible for clearing the scene saw that Luo Nan was still a half-grown child, so he didn't do anything ruthless. He just wanted to grab Luo Nan's shoulder and drag this strange kid with drifting eyes out. The moment Cat Eyes arrived, he staggered a few steps back and bumped into his colleague. Luo Nan didn't pay attention to the situation around him. He spoke to Cat Eyes, "Order. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page." Yes, he wholeheartedly agreed. From what he understood from the Blood Flame Order, the Blood Flame Order was not the only organization that had designs on the human-faced arachnid. Today, the Order of Justice was not the only organization that had designs on it. There were at least 2 or 3 other organizations that were inclined or even taking action in this direction. It seemed that in a single night, the human-faced arachnid had become a treasure that the secret orders of the world competed over. At the very least, it was a rare commodity worth hoarding. The emergence of such a situation was directly related to the general lack of sacrificial vessels of small and medium-sized churches. As for the information that the human-faced arachnid could be used as a sacrificial artifact, it was a taboo even within the Blood Flame Order. It was practically never directly mentioned. Comparatively speaking, Luo Nan was a bit surprised that a colossus like the Order of Justice was added to the mix. From his understanding of the situation, the Order of Justice seemed to be conducting some sort of simulation research on the human-faced arachnid to develop a new faith product. At this moment, the atmosphere in the VIP room was extremely tense. No matter how casually Cat Eyes acted, the meaning behind her actions was extremely serious. The few police officers present placed their hands on their guns. They did not pull out their guns and fire on the spot because Shui Weiluan had promptly stopped them. "Hold on, Guoju. They are important witnesses. Moreover, they are experts that have been verified by headquarters and the SCA. There are so many experts these days that they can be used to build walls." Guoju had an ugly expression. In the end, he knew some inside information. Even though he had been assigned by someone, he absolutely could not step on a mine and offend someone. The situation was tense and deadlocked for a time. Cat Eyes gave him a look that probably meant, "What now?" Luo Nan was speechless at this situation. But no matter what was said, he did obtain a bit of peace for the time being. He became more and more convinced that he was absolutely not the material to control the situation. He simply gave up and poured all of his attention into the technical aspect. Little did he know that in the eyes of others, he completely disregarded the ways of the world. He sullenly immersed himself in his own world. He was arrogant and dangerous. Guoju's gaze had already shifted from Cat Eyes to Luo Nan's face. He carefully observed where Guoju's gaze was directed, his expression as gloomy as water. At this time, Luo Nan's gaze was locked onto a multi-purpose robot within the room. It was in charge of carrying people together with another robot companion. After entering the room, it circled back and forth in the operating area, dutifully fulfilling its duty. Luo Nan didn't have any objections to the robot itself. However, as it entered the operating area, it projected light. This chapter has yet to end. Please turn the page. Within the mist, the originally stable operating structure of energy and information began to undergo a change. Large amounts of energy flow and information flow rapidly leaked downwards, pouring into an unremarkable external module on the robot's body. Even Cat Eyes, with her astonishing psychic senses, would find it hard to detect this sort of transfer of energy and information, let alone the average person. Only Cat Eyes was unable to hide it from Luo Nan. This was an eye-opener for him. This method took the existence of the mental plane and completely transformed it into energy and information. Then it was downloaded into a special storage device. It looked inconceivable, but the train of thought was actually clear. It was a reversal of the structure and function of the Tower of Babel. The subtleties within were truly worthy of proper research. Guo Ju, who had been hidden all this time, suddenly jumped out to clear the area and drive people away. His intentions were very clear. Was this the rhythm of the prototype beginning to be recycled after field testing? Luo Nan did not stop this process. He still wanted to observe. This was because he knew very well that there was a node that could not be bypassed. The human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor could be restored, downloaded, and stored, but the human soul absolutely could not. As the relevant structure was restored layer by layer, it was transformed into pure energy and information that was transmitted into the storage device. The flawed component that was originally hidden deep within the human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor was inevitably exposed. A blurry mass of smoke suddenly separated itself from the operating structure of energy and information, which only had a skeleton left. It first condensed into a ball, carrying a bit of light that could only appear on the mental plane. It paused in the air for a moment before hurriedly charging toward Huang Bingzhen's body, who was about to be transported away. The timing was quite good. Luo Nan knew that this was Huang Bingzhen's soul. It seemed to be wrapped in a special layer of protection, avoiding the tragedy of a plane crash. The Order of Justice's product of faith was quite human-like in design. Luo Nan had no intention of interfering. He just observed with interest. However, accidents always happened. Huang Bingzhen's tiny soul, which had separated itself from the mysterious human-faced arachnid exoskeleton armor, made a habitual mistake. He was too close to the material plane. Originally, this wasn't a big deal. As long as he touched the range of his fleshly body, his soul and flesh would become one, and everything would be fine. But right now, there was also Cat Eyes in the room besides Luo Nan. Cat Eyes suddenly discovered a suspicious target. Her mental senses instantly cut over, locking onto and scanning. This was a very normal reaction, but it was like a whip heavily lashing down on Huang Bingzhen's fragile soul structure. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.